The Michelin Le Mans Cup is back at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza for another 2-hour race on Saturday evening. It is 20 to 5 local time, and this race is sort of being presented just outside of the heat of the day, where it has easily been above 30 degrees Celsius at times, I think even creeping up to 35, and set to be even hotter tomorrow for the European Le Mans Series race. However, we are hearing that there is at least a 10-minute delay to the start of this race because of an incident that has just happened in the Porsche Carrera Cup France race, which looked very busy indeed, I have to say, just catching it on screens in the press room, and there was at least one safety car deployed as well. Come to expect that with the single make racing. We've had already Porsches on the bill from the Benelux Championship earlier on in the campaign at the Red Bull Ring, but with the Alps in the background, an idea of the parkland setting of this Monza circuit, which is now 99 years old and celebrating a massive year, therefore, in 2022. My name's Johnny Palmer, joined as always by Graham Goodwin, and we're looking forward then to the Michelin Le Mans Cup event. This gives the teams a bit more time, I suppose, of preparation, although in reality they'll just be trapped in the assembly room for a little longer. They will. It's just make clear, by the way, it was indeed a very heavy shunt indeed at the end of that Porsche Carrera Cup France race, but driver walked away unharmed from what was a very badly damaged 911. Happy to say, the car looking after him very well indeed, so no dramas beyond the mechanical, and lots of repair going to be needed to that car, but happily driver seemed absolutely fine. We have though got, Johnny, 2 hours of the usual, which is amazing entertainment from the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Yes. And after the dramas of Le Castellet last time out, because of course the kind of missed out on the Red Bull Ring to accommodate what comes after this. We'll talk about that shortly. Real dramas, real strategic nous in play, and now we're going to see more of that here. Yeah, there were one or two post-race penalties floating around as well because of an early caution in the 2-hour race at Le Castellet, which sort of forced one or two teams in decisions that they thought they could make. Many of them were absolutely fine, but there are various things you have to tick off during the 120-minute race. I think that's the best way of putting it. One of which is a long pit stop, and that can be, it sort of naturally forms in a clear race, a full green flag race. It falls at half distance between your two driver stints, and each car entered into the race will have two drivers, some of which are the combination of a bronze and a silver. Other very brave teams go with two bronzes, and that means there's a decision to make earlier on a Saturday as to who qualifies the car, because it must be the bronze. But yeah, you get to the end of the 50-minute drive time window for the LMP3s. It's slightly longer in GT3 at 55 minutes. But during that window is the sensible time to do your longish sort of 2-minute stop. However, when we had a caution early on at Circuit Paul Ricard last month, the caution was set to be quite a long one, and a number of teams actually did their long stop and retained their original driver, and then that really did rather throw the cat amongst the pigeons. They still did the driver change at the top of the hour, or as close to it as they dared, and then for LMP3 there is an additional stop for the insurance required for fuel, because these newly engined cars, stretching on from last year when the old 5-litre Nissan engine became Orica race-prepared 5.6-litre Nissan engine, but very, very thirsty it has proved to be, and therefore there is a worry that the car won't necessarily be able to do a full hour. So therefore you have to do a long stop, and you have to do a fuel-only stop in the final 20 minutes of the race. The difficulty with that, though, is you cannot do anything else other than minor things like mirror adjustment, clean of the screen, replacement of drinks bottle, and that's pretty much it. And there are one or two teams who tried to do a driver change, I think, during that stop as well, which is a big no-no. Many of those teams will have learned that they cannot continue to do it that way, because quite big penalties I'm looking at here. I mean, over a minute and a half, for instance, for the 55 Rinaldi Racing LMP3 car. Yeah, several drafts of that race report were written from Daily Sports Car after the Castellet race. I can imagine. But it was fascinating stuff, and I know from the responses we were seeing from people on social media, people gripped by that. Perhaps a little too complex, the rules and regulations at this point there, but great to see. We've got, if anything, an enhanced grid back here, certainly for the LMP3s. The Black Falcon team here, the number 12 car, has been with us
all season. They, though, are sharing their awning this weekend with fellow German squad, Frikadelli Racing. And delighted to see the number 30 car here with Klaus Abelen, owner of the team, Axel Jeffries, rising star Axel. We've seen him in GT and now prototype racing more and more often, and he's more than welcome to be here. But Frikadelli Racing, real standout performers at the Nürburgring. They'll be there tomorrow. United Autosports here. This is the 23 car. One of what should be 3 will be 2. We can now confirm that the absence of the 32 from the qualifying session is because ill health overnight for Daniel Schneider, now confirmed as kidney stones. Incredibly painful. I have had them once. I don't ever want them again. Daniel, if you're listening, get well soon. Hope you're feeling more comfortable. But we won't sadly see the 32. We'll see you at the Road to Le Mans, Daniel, with Andy Merrick, I'm sure of that. United Autosports then represented by 2 of their 3 Ligiers in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. And that will confirm us with a 32-car grid, I believe.
Yes, counting them up on my screen.
No shortage then of competition to come. The TS Corsa team with, I think, one of the loveliest liveries we've got in any form of prototype racing at the moment on their Duqueine, the number 73 car, and one of the Italian-based teams, of course. Great to see so many Italian teams and drivers in the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the European Le Mans Series for that matter, and for that matter beyond that, the WEC next weekend here.
Yes, of course.
It's going to be a long week in the sun.
It's a 9-10 day sports car kind of festival, if you like.
It's hell, Johnny. It's hell.
I'm sure it is. I just like to be able to fling the gates open and get some fans in here so they could enjoy it as well. But there is a suggestion that there may be some fans next weekend.
There will be some fans next weekend.
That's good.
As long as the COVID protocols stay in place, there will be some fans in the stands for next weekend's race. And the answer to the question, I'm sure people are asking why not this weekend. The FIWEC has a different set of COVID protocols because it's a World Championship event. That means that other facilities are here and available that would not be here this weekend. So there is frankly, more resource that is available. It does mean we can actually allow a number of fans back in, and be delighted with that. That is...
The shades are on for Maurice Smith, absolutely.
It's utterly cool.
He is there, for Cool Racing. 69 car all set to go, and he timed things just right in a qualifying session that, if you didn't witness it live, was actually in 3 parts. That's not as per the regulations. It's because of a red flag for the same car that appeared twice. Car 16, Team Virage. Ground to a halt with Nicholas Luton at the wheel. Very nearly made the pit lane, but then as soon as the red flag was called, because the car was stopped in the pit lane, it got going again and then didn't go to the pits. And the clear regulation when a red flag comes out is that you must go back to the pits at a much reduced pace as quickly as possible. And in fact, the 16 car went to the left of the bollard, which delineates the pit lane and the racetrack, and Matthias Luton was pinged for that as well. I haven't actually worked out where the 16 car is going to be starting the race, but I wonder whether there was maybe a penalty given. It'll be 11th row on the outside, so from 22nd place, Matthias Luton, labelled as the starting driver as well, to start alongside Michael Jensen, not to be confused with Mikkel Jensen, who is in action this weekend in the European Le Mans Series with the G-Drive team. The number 8 car has had a tweak to the driving lineup. Still Paolo Roberti, but no longer defending champion Rino Mastronardi, his co-driver. Gabriele Lancieri instead welcomed into the fold, but doing exactly the same job as Rino Mastronardi, as in taking pole position earlier today.
And driving a Ferrari very fast, round and round in circles, and that's going to be the job here. It looks to me as if they've got some real competition this weekend. The Porsche boys will certainly be up for this push, and we'll see, I'm sure, shortly the addition to the grid here this weekend with an eye-catching driver duo aboard the solo Aston Martin in the field.
Looking to the dark blue 51 car of Ken Abe, who is down to start that car, and will be joined by Matteo Cressoni later on. To say, slightly different window for the GT3 cars. 55 minutes is the minimum drive time, so a narrower window really, if you're going to stick to that, to the letter of the law. 10 minutes effectively is your pit stop window in GT.
This is probably the most misidentified car by this commentator this season. This is the 31 AF Corsa Ligier, Gradin and Dudis, sharing that car with Jaguar. 61 car here, addition here, and this is going to be pedalled by, well, look, it's Andrea Montemini. What else can you say? It's Andrea Montemini.
Yeah.
Second place some years back in Formula 3000's championship. Multiple seasons aboard a variety of Formula 1 cars, and coming back here into GT racing, and delighted to see him here. CD Sport, good looking car here. Michael Jensen, as you quite rightly said. Anna Mateki, real talent from France, and it's going to be Michael, Danish driver, that starts this car. CD Sport just looking to step up the order and putting in some strong performances of late in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and before that some good runs as well out in the Gulf region in the Asia Le Mans series earlier this year. Lots of opportunities offered now with this pyramid of sports car racing under the ACO rules and the LMEM, the organising body now for the FIWEC, the European Le Mans series, the Asia Le Mans series and the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
18 car of Dino Lunardi and his teammate, who was put out for qualifying despite the timing screen suggesting otherwise. Zolo, who went out for qualifying and I assume is going to be labelled as the starting driver. No, actually it's Dino Lunardi who is put in for the opening stint in a little batch of Ducanes found in the midfield there.
That's their sweet spot.
It must be. Mark Crader and Freddie Hunt also involved.
Not in grid order.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, because it's I've just looked at the Porsche, which should be on pole position, and that's not going to happen either. But they're sort of numbered sequentially then, or almost sequentially. If we'd had 19, 20, and 21, then all the Ducanes would be on the same part of the entry list. Yeah, the timing screen, if you're catching live timing, will revert to grid order when the cars are released. There should also actually be a short period of like a warm-up session. Yep. We haven't even got to that yet, so there's an indication of the delay here. Thankfully, there's no tight curfew up against 7 o'clock, which was the time we were due to finish. They're kind of used to racing around these parts now.
Indeed. That was the 21 car. We've got a good look at the other Milner Motorsports car, and another eye-catching driver lineup there. It is Jerome Blakemolen. Evergreen talent, multiple champion in all sorts of machinery, including at the Le Mans 24 Hours. And he's going to share with young Freddie Hunt, the son of late great James Hunt, and shares his father's looks, his father's voice, and his father's helmet design.
There you go. So you will be able to recognise him when he gets out of the car from the helmet. It'll be a 10-minute warm-up session to confirm that. Thumbs up from Tony Wells in the Nielsen racing car with the gold detailing this year.
10th anniversary of their link with Nielsen Chemicals.
There you go.
Their title sponsor.
And yeah, that car is already in the queue for warm-up. Pit lane's going to be opening for that in 1 minute and 10 seconds. Therefore, just time for us to squeeze this interview in with Hayley Edmonds, who's in the pits.
I'm joined by Finn Gertzitz, driver of car number 5 of Phoenix Racing. What a fantastic performance in qualifying. You got pole. Firstly, just take us through that. And what do you think of the field here at this Michelin Le Mans Cup today?
Yeah, qualifying went really good. On pole position with 3/10 to the second one. It was a difficult qualifying because of the many red flags. I just had one push lap. Yeah, the competitors are also really strong today. It's quite small gap to the other guys, and yeah, let's see for the race now.
Thank you very much, Finn.
Now Finn, despite his height, actually only 16 years old, and therefore bronze because he's done very little driving in cars. Sure, there'll be quite a long karting career leading into prototype racing, but this is his first meaningful attack into motorsport, and yeah, really proving that he'll be one to watch in the next, well, 2 or 3 years probably.
This is part, isn't it, of the game now in sports car racing. It's find those emerging talents and find the right place to put them together with somebody who has the vision and, for that matter, the budget to show them, to give them the opportunity to exercise those. It's going to be these guys. We've seen this before with a number of drivers coming through the ranks. Lawrence Herr now showing well in the European Le Mans Series. Job Venutia, another talent that's emerged from this kind of, what do you call it, kind of pot boiler really of talents here. And it's been a great driver to grow this part of the sport. And you know what these young men and women, because there's increasing numbers of female drivers coming to sports car racing as well, are clearly looking for is the opportunity to find someone who will back them on a career path that will take them into and through and beyond the Michelin Le Mans Cup, the European Le Mans Series, the FIA World Endurance Championship, up through the ranks. This is how you grow a career nowadays, and trust me, look for the young people that are going to be aboard these cars this afternoon. If you had the time machine and could look forward 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to see them doing remarkable things in remarkable cars in remarkable racing.
And unsurprisingly, they're with teams that you can continue that partnership with. I mean, Phoenix Racing, look at the amount of trophies and success that they have got out of GT racing.
Yep.
You know, you sign someone who's interested in prototype and GT racing for the future at 16 years old, that partnership can continue for a couple of decades potentially.
Great example here of more or less precisely that. This is the solo Aston Martin in the 97 car from TF Sports. It's going to be, I'm sure, Ben Keating aboard the car for this warm-up session. Ben is doing this race as a one-off to prep for his GTE AM run next weekend here. Gives him some extra testing in race conditions. But it's the co-driver, Ross Gunn, came out of the Aston Martin development programme, now a fully fledged Aston Martin factory driver, and finding gainful employment alongside the likes of Ben Keating in fabulous Aston Martin racing cars around the world, showing off those talents. And I've zero doubt that we'll be talking about Ross Gunn and his achievements for the better part of the next decade and beyond.
Yeah, and as you say, that came from really blooding him very early on. I remember he got that title in 2015 in British GT, and that was the first explosion into the GT world as him being someone to focus on. And yeah, only 6 years on from that, very well a part of the factory unit, and then deployed if Ben Keating starts to call to say I need a co-driver because I'm looking to try and get some mileage in prior to a WEC round.
Absolutely. And then you get to the other part of the equation, the Ben Keating to this world, the Andrew Howards of this world, by the way. He was the first real backer for Ross Gunn, and who, by the way, has competed here in the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the ELMS in the past. What a valuable part of the sport they now provide. And they're doing two things. They're putting in place their resource to fund their own passion for motorsports, but they're also investing in talent, as we got a bit of a run through the cut-through, the 25 Racing Spirit of Le Mans car. Team looking to expand their efforts next year, happy to say. Previous service providers to Cool Racing. But those gentlemen drivers that are there and supporting those emerging talents that otherwise might be lost to the sport, let's not forget. You know, it would take rather more than the digits I've got available bodily to count the number of times I've read stories about lost generations or lost talents. Yeah. Delighted to say that that's not the case in sports car racing at the moment, because there are opportunities available. It's tough, they have to work very hard to get there, but you know, we do see some really remarkably talented young people coming through and having very worthwhile career options, moving up, starting somewhere like this on the international.
Well, it's providing that necessary platform for the drivers involved to get the experience and to make the mistakes, I suppose, out of the spotlight in the lower down categories. But then you suddenly get someone, as you say, out of the blue, gets a British GT title, and you think, who's Ross Gunn? Okay, we need to write that one down for the future. And like you say, he was serving a purpose for Andrew Howard at the time. But almost securing the future of the sport as a happy byproduct.
Completely correct. And you know, the great thing about the Michelin Le Mans Cup is it's on the same bill as the next stage on that pyramid, on the next step up.
Yeah.
That does mean, make no mistake, that even beyond the teams that have got representatives in both the major races we've got here this weekend, everybody's watching this and everybody's aware of what's going on here, and everybody's certainly aware of the ones to watch. They'll look at those qualifying times, they'll look and listen to what's being said in the paddock, in the pit lane, on the air, about who it is that's catching your eye, my eye, the fans' eyes out there, and that will have an impact on the opportunities for conversations that can take them forward. Those conversations happen every single day of the racing weekends here. The number of conversations we'll have with team owners asking, what do you think of this? Who do you think of that? We're looking for this. What are our options here? And it's for me one of the fascinating parts of what is emerging right now And this, for my money, is one of the melting pots for it, as a fascinating and very positive picture for international sports car racing for what I believe will be a decade and more to come.
Yeah, definitely, and one to really look forward to, the way things are going. So the bulk of the field heading back into the pit lane, actually. Now that probably is LMP3 drivers thinking that's job done, although the pit lane's not going to close for another 4 minutes now. So there is the opportunity to go back out again, but I think those generally that are in the pits already are going to stay there, and then there'll be a couple of minutes of downtime before the pit lane is opened again to allow the cars out onto the dummy grid, which was set earlier on today with 2 doses of qualifying, 2 doses of 15-minute qualifying, and they'll be arranged in the correct order. And then we'll have the green flag lap. So we're still a little way away from the start. Remember, originally this was billed for a 5 o'clock start, but we're now 90 seconds after that and running, well, probably about 10 minutes late because of an incident in the Porsche Carrera Cup France race. Thankfully, driver okay, though.
Good to see that the race photographers there are all thinking completely differently from each other, and you won't be seeing any of those shots looking remotely the same.
Yeah, one or two needing to be pointed in the right direction of the cars. Mind you, there aren't that many cars out on the track now, in fairness. They're on the pit lane, so you can be forgiven for waiting for the next one to pop around the corner.
We got a quick shot, by the way, in the Iron Lynx garage there with Andrea Piccini, who is the team principal at Iron Lynx, chatting away to someone I have no doubt is going to be very important as part of the building blocks for what comes next for that extremely ambitious team. And Iron Lynx, as we said in the qualifying show a little earlier, Johnny, announcing this week that they've entered into a joint venture with Prema Power Team, another large Italian operation. They already do work with them in Italian F4 on a joint program there, but that means that the management, the resources, the talent that they're able to kind of put together and to provide a career track for all of a sudden will increase exponentially. And I'll leave it to the internet to determine what the next plan might be for that joint venture in an era where we've just had an announcement of full convergence for a top class of sports car racing with a team that has got no lack of ambition, no lack of talent and resource, and happily has a further headline to bring to the party as well, which is they have a whole different strand, a whole different string to their bow with the Iron Dames program and the all-female crews we're seeing there in sports car racing. That's the highly advanced air conditioning system, Klaus Abelin. Yes, indeed. Yeah,
wanting to cool down because it is warmer than it looks out on the racetrack. I mean, brilliant blue sky, a little bit of faint white wispy cloud way above this Monza circuit, but temperatures easily into the 30 degrees, and you can be forgiven for thinking it's cooler than that visually, but drivers sitting right in front, just the other side of the firewall of these V8s that pump out an awful amount of heat, and you can understand why both doors are open on the stationary LMP3s sitting in pit lane. Still have 1 or 2 takers, 3 of which are from the LMP3 category, and the Niki Leutwiler driven PZ Oberer Zürichsee Porsche, which has 50-odd seconds still to circulate and to play with. But I think most of them will be coming back in at the end of this warm-up session, which was an addition to the regulations, I think, last year, just to enable, obviously the cars have now reverted from their qualifying mode to be able to tackle a 120-minute race, and a good plan to make sure that everything has been put back in the right places, really.
Quick shot there of Francesco Zolo aboard the number 18 Milner Motorsport car. We can see clearly there why he was chosen for that car, because his helmet matches the car.
Okay. Yes, indeed.
Oh, that was a heck of a last-minute paint job.
Fueling practice taking place as well, because all of these cars will need to be fueled twice. Once, you would think, after the 50 minutes of the first driver's stint, but you never know, because if we have an early safety car or a full course yellow, there's always the chance to take that long stop earlier than expected.
You can see a different strategy there from the team Thor. They weren't using the loose binder folder, actually using the leaf blower to keep the cockpit. That's Gudmundsson, I believe, the Icelandic driver aboard the car. New co-driver for him this weekend, and a familiar name to LMS and WC watchers with Anders Fjordback joining Freddie Hunt there. Looking forward clearly with enthusiasm to what comes ahead. Go well, Freddie.
Yeah, so the 77, an Iceland and Denmark combination then for the Icelandic team, Team Thor, with a Ligier running his car 77. A variety of leaf blowers being utilised. Oh, is that the 30 car catching on?
That's the 11 car.
Oh, is it 11? Right.
That's the...
So Phoenix are well prepared.
Yeah.
Whereas the 30 crew of Fricadelli Racing using the strategy book, it almost looked like, waving that in the air to cool down Klaus Abelin.
Grid markers coming out with the grid marshals.
Yeah, these aren't the grid girls, we should probably point out.
We should make it very clear they're not the grid girls.
But the row boards are being carried by the helmeted marshals to make sure that everyone knows where to stop in the correct places. And
last circulation by the leading car for a circuit inspection before we get cars out towards the grid. Again, just a slight delay here to the start of this race, with an incident just in the race before, right at the end of the Porsche Carrera Cup France. He's obviously off to take an urgent phone call.
When the grid does arrive, bear in mind that there's no split after qualifying, so we have got one or two faster GT3 cars that will be starting ahead of some LMP3s, and that could pose a bit of a problem if drivers don't give one another racing room into turns 1 and 2. Get very narrow indeed at the apex of turn 1. And no stranger to the odd opening lap incident. Just have a look at the first lap of the European Le Mans Series race here last year, with Roman Rusinov ending up stranded on top of the sausage curb and going nowhere quickly. Also, the JMW Motorsport Ferrari that will be in action tomorrow, has already qualified today, but will be racing at the LMS, is still in the garage. So that gives you an idea of how little room all of these Michelin Le Mans Cup teams have to operate. They cannot step into the garage because there simply isn't the space. And the European Le Mans Series teams are being generous enough to allow the working area in the pits to be utilised by these teams. But it's a real challenge, actually, to be able to do that from a logistical point of view, to get all of your kit in the right place and then to be able to pull off the pit stop.
Absolutely. Very well choreographed you have to be here. And happy to say that the camaraderie between the two series is very good here. I have experienced occasions when it's not been quite so good with other series. Shared pit lanes.
This is good practice for Le Mans, though, as well. I mean, it's rare, actually, that the WEC have to do this. I suppose, well, there are support categories with the WEC, so they kind of clear off. But particularly at Le Mans, when it's such a busy week, and then you've got races going on around you, other sessions as well. It's just having your wits about you, I think, and tucking all your... If you are occupying one of the garages, you've just got to make sure that everything's tucked in safely and away from those that are using your space in a satellite way for the other additional sessions.
Well, the smart ones get to know each other early in the weekend, have that conversation. They'll talk through kind of any kind of nuances that are important for the space that's operated there. But the reality is, there is a line on that pit lane, and the garage occupying team should not be moving beyond that line within defined times. So it should be pretty drama-free. Doesn't always work out that way, but it should be pretty drama-free. But as you can see, all is calm right now.
Yeah, ahead of the Michelin Le Mans Cup storm, which is heading our way, metaphorically speaking, of course, because the skies are still glorious. 5,793 metres around this fantastic temple of speed at Monza, with the two hard stops into the chicanes, the right and the left and the right, the other side of the Curva Grande. The two Lesmos, which are, well, similar, but actually very different right-handers, turn 6 and turn 7. And a common place where cars have been breaching the track limits is on the exit of turn 7. I'm expecting one or two messages regarding some extra space being occupied by cars in the early part of the race, certainly on the exit of 7, because it gives you that slingshot all the way down to Variante Ascari, and therefore is crucial. But if you start to do that on too many occasions, you will be pinged, and it could well result in a drive-through penalty. Arriving at Ascari then at very high speed. Number of cars already been off in the Ligier European Series this weekend into the gravel trap at turn 9, so that'll be one to watch out for. And then the short blast to the Parabolica, which will bring the cars back across the line.
Pit lane will open in about 30 seconds for the LMP3s, so we should hear the voice of what we think Animal Freitas. It wasn't earlier. Opening that pit lane in now 20 seconds.
So, thinking that this process will take 10 minutes maybe. I think that'll put us about 20 minutes behind the scheduled, the advertised starting time. So thank you for being patient with us. If you've tuned in for racing action, we should ordinarily be 11 minutes into this. A bit of overtime for Eduardo Freitas as well. I dread to think how much that's going to cost the championship.
Dear me, I should think it's going to cost them at least one cigarillo and a very good bottle of port.
Yes, normally sorts him out, doesn't it?
Bless.
So yeah, the car's now heading across, or carefully not to cross the blend line. Much more important come the race, of course, and one or two cars have been pinged for that as well in the quali sessions today. A clearly defined, pretty wide white line that must not be crossed if you're travelling
GT3
right
cars
to left.
on standby. It will be on a short call. GT3 cars to prepare to access the grid.
And these cars are coming out in pit order, I reckon, or really just the order that they assembled at the end of the pit lane. So there'll be some untangling to be done as soon as they get to the grid, and some space if we're awaiting the pole sitter.
GT3 cars may exit the pit lane. GT3 cars may exit the pit lane.
Confirmation there, the pit lane is open now for the second
GT3
class of
cars
car.
may exit the pit lane, please.
Now they are paying attention to Eduardo's message. The Aston Martin number 97, Ben Keating, will be at the wheel.
Indeed, 61 car ahead. This is the addition from AF Corsa this weekend. 51 behind, the gorgeous green and blue, blue and white car. To get green and blue from Porsche, and the number 8 Iron Lynx car, and finally the number 9.
So the full complement of GT3s now out onto the asphalt, and a chance again as a bit of a sighting lap, I suppose, to work out quite how much grip is out there. That's always tricky to do at such a low speed, and another reason really why we have a single green flag lap, to build tyre temperature, yes, but also to work out what the track conditions are like. So Finn Gersitz, we've already heard from him with a pole position, a 1:44.785, starts alongside Torsten Kratz. The second row, Anton Ducat for Cool and Freddie Hunt for Mühlner, and then it'll be Rinaldi Racing's Alexander Matchell alongside Mikey Benham for RLRM Sport. Rob Hodes for Team Virage, the American, starts 7th alongside fellow American Mo Smith for Cool Racing number 69, and on the 10th row it'll be Tony Wells for Nielsen, celebrating that decade of partnership with their sponsors and the gold detailing alongside Pietro Peccinini. Then DKR Engineering and John Brownston, who did the Barcelona round, but this will be the first one since then. Dona Munding for Black Falcon, ahead of Edex Sport, Patrice Lafargue and Steve Parrow for Rinaldi Racing. Racing Spirit of Le Mans had that off-track moment on the release lap, on the warm-up lap rather, for Jacques Wolf during the warm-up itself, alongside Jerry Kraut, and then it'll be Mark Crader and Auden Gudmundsson for Grain Market and Team Thor respectively. Klaus Abelin for Fricadelli Racing alongside AF Corsa and Crichton Len Tudis. Michael Jensen in the CD Sport car alongside the Team Virage Matthias Luton. That was the car with all the dramas earlier on today. Niklas Schatz for the ANS Team JSE Management entry. Trips off the tongue. Gabriele Lancieri will be in the pole for GT3 and Iron Lynx. Sarah Bovey ran Gabriele so close. Is it 55 thousandths of a second in the end? It's very, very tight indeed. John Schaumann alongside in the 23 car. Then it'll be Ben Keating and Nicky Leutwiler in the Aston and Porsche respectively. Francesco Zolo for Mühlner Motorsport starts in 29th position alongside Gino Forgione. And the last car on the back of the grid will be the AF Corsa Ferrari for Ken Arbe. Andy Merrick, who was due to start the 32 car, intriguingly, an absentee.
Yes, indeed. So that's sad news, but hopefully nasty bout of kidney stones for his co-driver Daniel Schneider. Hopefully comfortable in hospital today, and we will see them back, I have no doubt whatsoever, at the road to Le Mans. They're going to get this underway and away as quickly as they possibly can. So grid coming together. Mühlner Motorsports mechanic just gesturing there to the number 21 car. So it's an all Phoenix Racing run, front row. Extraordinary stuff for the number 5 car. Then the WTM powered by Phoenix alongside the number 5. new and emerging forces in LMP3 racing. I like that. It's we've got a lot of new blood this year, and it's added real spark to it, without a shadow of a doubt. Milner Motorsports with the 2-car entry this season. A little late coming to the conclusion of what who was going to crew these 2 cars. That was quite late on. Got a penalty for that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, 3 TBAs still on my entry list, so it'll be Jeroen Blekemolen to join Freddie Hunt in the 21 car.
Correct.
And then 18, we worked out at Francesco Zolo to start that car. And can you remember who he was sharing with?
The 18
oh,
is
yes,
Dino
Montemini,
Lunardi.
Dino Lunardi, sorry, yes.
Right.
Dino Lunardi. Thank you. As I say, so late it was that they haven't even made the printed entry lists, but that's all now been corrected as far as the documents required from the team are concerned.
We talk about printing. Wochenspiegel, the Wochenspiegel-backed car, that is a newspaper
yes.
from Germany, and for me, one of the prettiest liveries we've got, certainly most spectacular liveries we've got, the Michelin Le Mans Cup this year. They do make a very colourful group this season. Phoenix car they've put some effort into this weekend as well. Lots more fluorescent stuff. I like fluorescent stuff. It helps us to spot that. And, 2 Phoenix cars, 2 Phoenix run cars there on the front row of the grid. 1 Ligier, 1 Duquesne.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, whether that's down to driver choice
it's customer choice,
yeah,
pure and simple.
But we have had in the past YMR choosing to have one of each because they were deciding which was the best.
Crafted the same.
Yeah, and that was when we had the regulations when the cars had come into being at different times. That's happened less so when the reset button was pushed at the start of 2020, and we had all 4 cars available pretty much from the same date. But yeah, that's intriguing mixture. I mean, you know, Ligier takes pole, but alongside it a Duquesne. Same combination on the next row. And in fact, the next but switched around because Matchell outpaced the Ligier Mikey Benham. But you can't read it. You've got 3 of each in the top 6.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one here. And as I was saying in qualifying, these are 2 very different. Let's just wait for Eduardo.
Green flag, start of the formation lap. Green flag, start of the formation lap.
Okay, cars underway. We were saying the performance, the lap time being generated by the Ligier and the Duquesne chassis in different ways here. Typically, certainly in the last iteration of LMP3, the Norma, which begat the Duquesne, had certainly a straight line speed advantage. The Ligier, perhaps the better handling of the 2. And well, we'll wait and see in real racing conditions here. This is a great place to see exactly that, whether or not we do see those qualities coming to the fore again. So critical, this first lap, that first very tricky chicane. So how often, Johnny, have we seen and talked about incidents that can define the way a race can go? We saw it last year here with the European Le Mans Series.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for hustling when the red lights go out, but everyone has to be mindful that it is a 2-hour race, and you know the only thing you're risking really into turns 1 and 2 is retirement very early on indeed. You know, the risks become higher and seem to be paying off much later on in the event. It's more about just surviving that opening lap, I would suggest, and trying to lose as little time as possible. You can get 2 cars through turns 1 and 2, but it just needs a bit of give and take, some understanding between those drivers that may be door handle to door handle. But I've seen an overtake around the outside of turn 1 already today in the Ligier European Series. Don't get that very often. And again, it's because it came from some fair and understanding racing from the 2 parties involved. Likewise, into the second chicane, that's a good opportunity to make a pass, more so on the brakes. Of course, if you overcook, you run into there is a strict policy dictated in the driver's briefing that you must then continue on the track, which is in the runoff area, but it has white lines either side of it. Got to go right-hand side of a green bollard and then delicately rejoin. And if you don't do it that way, you'll be reported to the stewards. So there's a number of kind of extra duties that you have to pay attention to if you find yourself off the racetrack. It's
going to be a very interesting start here. We've got the young Finn Gershitz starting from pole position. Now, he is bronze ranked, isn't he? But is the quicker of the two drivers in that car.
Yeah.
The only other team I can spot that has got technically the quicker driver starting is the number 6 car. Starts in 23rd position. It's the A&S Team JSC management team. Nico Schatz is the silver ranked driver in that squad. And so we've seen less in this race than perhaps we've seen before of this, with 2 or 3 teams often opting to start the quicker, or the higher ranked driver.
Now, is that to do with the statistic about safety cars around here?
Maybe.
Yellow flags. You want to, well, you don't want to deploy the quicker driver for it all to count to naught if then the field is compressed and concertinaed because of a safety car. So burn the bronze time when it matters less so, and then you've got to get your quick driver in at the end when they're making the run to the line.
Of course, the other one is Torsten Kratz. He might be the bronze ranked driver. He's another youngster, isn't he?
Yes, that's true. So another one to watch out for, definitely, from the outside of the front row. So yeah, Finn Gershitz, Torsten Kratz.
They're going to be looking to get away, and rapidly.
The future of sports car racing, quite possibly. We're enjoying their talents this early on. Finn Gershitz, still 16 years old, from Stuttgart. And he is in the number 5 Phoenix racing car and dictating the pace right now, with 5 red lights presented to this 32 car field. And you can't go until the red lights are out. Your formation, the 2x2 Noah's Ark formation, has to be retained for as long as possible. And remember, the order at the start line will be looked back on after we've started racing to make sure that it is correct. But we are racing now in the 2021 Michelin Le Mans Cup here at Monza. Everybody getting away just about as equally as one another. But big question mark, what happens the other side of this chicane? 2x2 we go into turn 1, and Gershitz is fully alongside Torsten Kratz, but Gershitz got just about the better exit. Looking further down the order, no spinners yet. There was maybe the hint of contact though between Kratz and Gershitz, and Kratz, interestingly, through the first split was labelled as being ahead of Gershitz. That concerns me, because Gershitz should have had the pole position, but we'll wait and see whether that needs to be corrected later on in the piece. The 37 car is in third, Antoine Ducas for Cool Racing. Then it is Freddie Hunt for Mühlner Motorsport, Alexander Matschel for Rinaldi Racing, Mikey Bennett RLRM Sport, and in the GT3s, the Iron Lynx 1-2 is retained. Lancieri ahead of Sarah Bovey, with in third position the Aston Martin of Ben Keating.
Looked to me in the background there that Maurice Smith might have been getting a bit beaten up in the traffic. Dropped back a little. Keep an eye on that one. And trouble there. Is that Maurice Smith stopping?
Pretty sure it is. Ben Keating having to take to the gravel trap to avoid. Last thing you want is a car virtually stopped on the exit of Lesmo, because you cannot see that car as you plunge away into the second of the right-handers. But the yellow flag, which is behind the leaders, will not affect them. The race start is under investigation, and Mo Smith just no fire in the belly at all. Is it down on that one side, maybe? I think it is a mechanical problem rather than a puncture.
Looked like he'd almost at that point managed to get the thing moving, but that
was Keating.
Lucky to avoid him there. Nothing he could have done there.
No, certainly not. But yes, as the cars were timed across the start line, definitely Kratz was ahead of Gershitz, and they should have been the other way around. That might be depending on where the timing loop is, though, for the first run to turn number 1. There might be one hidden in the track that I didn't know about at turning point. We'll watch that with interest. Ligier leading, Finn Gershitz ahead of Torsten Kratz for WTM, powered by Phoenix, as opposed to the bog standard Phoenix racing car. Cool Racing, Antoine Ducas, so the sister car to Maurice Smith, is going very sweetly indeed compared to all the drama for the 69 car. Freddie Hunt, Alex Matschel, Mikey Bennett, and then Dona Munding for Black Falcon, number 12, running in 7th position, and a little faster through the first sector than those 2 cars immediately ahead. Looks
to me like Maurice Smith has got that car running again, albeit some way down, but it looks he's completed the lap, he's not pitted. Looked as if, as the medical car was going by him up the inside here for the second of the Mühlner cars, didn't quite make that move on the leading car. We say leading car, it's not second place, isn't it? Because it's Sarah Bovey in the lead here. So tussling away between some of the midfield, the lower end LMP3s and the leading GT3s, as we've seen constantly through the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Well, Sarah was honest enough earlier on in the day to confess that qualifying is not her strong point. Therefore, you think she goes much better in the races, according to her own opinion. Well, that is being borne out right now, because Bovey's got ahead of Gabriele Lancieri and leads the racing GT3. Big smiles down at Iron Links, particularly for Dorian Pain, who will be piloting that car at roughly half distance to take over from Sarah. But the driver from Brussels, starting as she means to go on, definitely, and scampering away in the lead of GT3.
The racing car 37 in the hands of Antoine Ducat is catching and now harrying Torsten Kratz for second place. The lights being flashed as they came down the start-finish straight. And we know that, of course, that will immediately mean that he'll pull over and let him through. No, he won't. But this is a proper battle now for second.
Ducat quicker visually as well out of the chicane to kick off this lap than Torsten Kratz. 0.6 of a second between Gersitz and Kratz, and then the Antoine Ducat driven Cool Racing 37 Ligier. Two Ducanes next. Freddie Hunt for Mulner ahead of Alexander Maxwell still for Rinaldi Racing in the 66 car. 55 also for Rinaldi, a little bit further down in the hands of Steve Parrow, running in 13th place. Other movers and shakers, Virage have sort of stayed where they were, but one to look out for is Nicolas Schatz, the multiple French hill climb champion for ANS Team JSE Management, working its way up the order then, now 16th, Graham.
He was 23rd on the grid. It was a bit of a wayward moment there from Ben Keating, struggling in these early laps at the moment with the Aston Martin. I wonder if that run off track to avoid the, at that point, near stationary Cool Racing car has done some damage to the tyres, or the heat in the tyres.
And now, see, Ben wasn't necessarily at an easy angle to go round the bollard there at turn 5, no. So that might be overlooked, but if you properly overcook it into 5, then you must go straight on and take the left-hander later on. He actually went over some of the sausage curbs and rejoined right in the thick of this GT3 battle in front of Ken Arbe. Oh, big huge incident for the Team Virage car, and it's taken 1, 2, maybe 3 other cars with it. Talking about the Ligier European Series earlier on today, where one of the cars really got away with an incident coming out of Ascari. But this is what I'm more used to, I have to say. If a car loses it out of Ascari, there is a concrete wall on driver's left, and that looks like exactly what the Virage car has done. Now, there are 2 Team Virage cars in this race. Safety car we're going to go to straight away. It wasn't the Virage car
to start with
going off.
Is that the 17?
I'm trying to work out, it might be the EDEC Sport car, but it ends up standing right in the middle of the track, and as a second part of this incident, the Virage car goes right and is then collected on the left-hand side of the circuit as it spits its way from one side of the track to the other, and those behind simply cannot react in time.
It was the CD Sport car checking up that caught out the Team Virage car. So it is the Matthias Lerton car, the 16 car involved in that, and it's Mark Crader from Grey Market Racing.
So does that suggest that if it's CD Sport, it was Michael Jensen with the initial incident?
It was the initial incident was the 17. Then the CD Sport car checked up in avoidance of that. That then caught out the 2 cars behind. They were the 2 that had the major contact. Sorry, so the CD Sport car and the Virage car were the 2 cars that caused the incident caused the Virage car to cross the track, impacting both barriers, and then the Grey Market car collected the Virage car.
So Patrice Lafargue, just digging down into
that was the
how
first
the whole thing started, has had a moment coming out of Variante Ascari,
stopped in the middle of the circuit,
loses the rear, heads onto the grass, but actually looked like he kept it out of the wall, but the car rotates and ends up right then in the middle of the track, and that is the result, because you're firing out of Ascari at such a pace.
It's very, very quick. You may not look at it with that perspective. It's very quick there. What then happened was the CD Sport car came across that scene, clearly heavy braking there, unsighted. The Virage car then made first and then second impact, and the second impact collected the Grey Market car.
And the Virage car has made contact with the Armco barrier where it tapers from the gravel track, which is nice and wide, to then protect the Marshall post on driver's right. So it's hit this Armco at kind of 45 degrees, and that is what's then pitched it very dramatically from one side of the road to the other. clearly concern for all of the drivers involved. I will say these are very, very strong race cars, and also very newly designed race cars, having only come into being for last season. The protective cell is so impressive, but I mean, from the right-hand side of the picture, the Armco barrier is just rippled and torn apart, which is what it's designed to do, actually, unlike a concrete wall. But there is an indication of the magnitude of impact we're talking about here.
These cars are based around a carbon fibre tub with a steel roll cage. Very safe indeed. We've seen some really very heavy accidents and drivers walking away with remarkably little damage. As the safety car now, the Jaguar safety car, is scrambled. Field, most of them of whom would have seen the severity of that incident.
Yeah. And this is going to, I mean, even beyond the point of when we get news of drivers, and clearly the mood down at Virage is just horrible right now because they're waiting for some
They've just seen the driver who's out the car.
Okay.
That was the look of relief.
Yes, to an extent, but I want them to go to the medical centre first, because concussion can creep in, you know, at a later date. So they will be checked, but yes, it potentially means that these cars can be moved quite quickly now, because the doctors are on the scene, the rescue units are on the scene, and the drivers, which are the most important, quite clearly. I mean, I'm stating the obvious here, but the drivers are in condition of them are the most important.
Watch this again. Watch this. That's a bright red car comes through, goes way wide.
That's Patrice Lafargue.
Loses the car.
EDEX Sport does impact
the barrier,
with the barrier, but swings relatively small.
Now watch, coming across and out of Ascari here, you'll see the bright red car with the yellow stripe. That is the CD Sport car. That checks up, and then
goes right.
That's what causes the impact there, and then collects the Grain Market car on the other side of the track.
Yeah, which was already on the grass actually, and what the Virage car did was shove the Grain Market car further into the Armco barrier.
Now we always wait for whatever we're going to be told there. What I will say is the plus I can see, I believe both drivers in that doctor's car. There's no ambulance on scene, so they will undoubtedly go to the medical centre. But at the moment, aside from the racing side of the story, there is some good news to report here.
That was Sascha Lehrmann, by the way, with head in hands rather, the silver-rated Frenchman who is the teammate to Matthias Luton. And it was Luton who was having all the difficulties with the 16 car during qualifying, with it cutting out and causing a red flag initially. Then it got going again, but then spluttered, coughed, and brought out another red flag during qualifying again. So it's just not been the day for car 16. That incident was nothing to do with Matthias Luton, by the way. I reckon that the close to shot is EDEX Sport. Yeah, Patrice Lafargue didn't get much further than the end of the straight towards the Parabolica. But there are two flatbeds with cranes now on the scene. And of course the motor race continues, and there is a question now as to whether you can use this safety car period for your fuel stop. Looking down to two cars that may have already done that.
I think they've just done that. I think we've already seen the Nielsen Racing number 7 and the RLR Sport number 15, Tony Wells, and Mikey Benham, I think have done exactly that.
Yep.
They've burned one of those long stops, and my guess would be, because this is going to be a while, that we're going to see a lot more of these do exactly the same. So we're going to be back into that confusing period of time in the Michelin Le Mans Cup with multiple strategies in play.
The other thing to note is that the number 2 Porsche has been handed from Niki Leutwiler to Julian Andlauer, intriguingly. Now, we're not going to be out of this safety car for a little while yet, but the rapid Frenchman has been installed into the Porsche.
To start again, this was what you were saying about the wrong car, if you like, leading the race at the beginning. If it was marginal.
I haven't yet seen an NFA regarding this race start, but there's been rather too much going on to worry about that just yet.
He did cede the corner. Well, I think there was a minor contact there between the two Phoenix Run cars, but it was minor.
Yeah. As I say, there may be an extra timing loop a bit further down the main straight after the start line. Then issues for Maurice Smith, not able to get the car anywhere close to race pace, and that caused an issue for Ben Keating, who suddenly found Maurice Smith on the edge of the track going very slowly through the blind right-hander at the second Lesmo. Sarah Bovey had a killer getaway, getting ahead of Gabriele Lancieri, much to the delight of those Iron Dames down in the pit lane. Iron Lynx switching over to Iron Lynx then for the lead of the race. But this is the real low point as far as the crash out of Ascari is concerned, that was it in real time, and how little time you've got to react if you are Matthias Luton, and blinded by the CD Sport car, you know, unsighted, a car dodges at the very last minute out of the way of that one stopped in the middle of the track, and you can't react in time.
It was an accident. It was as simple as that. It was unfortunate for Patrice Lafargue. It was very unfortunate for the 3 cars directly involved behind. That was the CD Sport car that I think got away. I'm not sure there was contact at all with the CD Sport car. If there was, it was very minor. And then, of course, very much more serious contact for the Team Virage car, impacting barrier left and right and collecting the completely unfortunate Mark Crader as he came across the track. Mark had avoided the EDEC Sport car and then had absolutely nowhere to go, as the Team Virage car would have appeared from his right at a rate of very high knots.
Looking at what's left of the 2 cars on the flatbeds, I will say that all of the components that are designed to brake and split off the car have done exactly that. And they've taken the energy. Yeah, effectively. Because the more the accident looks like a horrendous incident, is actually better because the energy is dissipated through and down the track. Now, I'm not saying, you know, that it was a good scenario for any of the drivers involved. Clearly not, and an awful lot of bodywork's been torn off it, but the safety cell's intact.
Yep.
And the working area for the driver, there just doesn't seem to be a dent on that.
Porsche's back in again.
Right.
For a second stop. So 2 minutes and 10. Burns a long stop for them.
Yes, and remember the GTs don't have to do an extra stop either for fuel like the LMP3s do. They'll still have to do a stop to switch the driver around, because both drivers need to do a minimum of 55 minutes. But I think that's more of a problem than anything else.
Also in, by the way, is Michael Jensen in the CD Sport car, and let's hope that's not for an incident, for a problem, a knock-on effect of the incident we've just witnessed again.
Nicky Leutwiler has been put back in the Porsche. Now, does Nicky have a concern that he wanted Andlauer to experience to say, is this an issue, or is it something we can live with?
That could be that. That's a perfectly sensible assumption.
You put a pro driver in, ask him, what do you think? Can we live with this? Can we get to the end, do you think? And then you put Leutwiler back in again, because they've lost nothing. You stay behind the safety car. Or, yes, here's another theory from Mr. Goodwin.
Bear in mind that we've been caught by this rule book before. The long pit stop is indeed the one that you've got to change the driver in. You quite correctly said that's an odd time to do that.
No, yeah, you don't have to do a driver's change in your long stop.
It does, however, mean that they've burned a long stop.
Yes.
And Nicky Leutwiler will now burn his time behind the safety car.
Yes, true, but why change the driver? Because you didn't have to do that.
I thought you did in the long stop.
No, it's just a long stop, and you can do what you like in it, really.
Scrabble.
Yeah. Unless that's changed from last year.
Well,
again,
not the Scrabble.
Scrabble rules have remained the same for 60, 100 years, probably. Good question. Do you have to do a driver change in your long stop?
I'm going to have a look at the regulations.
Yeah.
Again.
That's never cropped up before. No, but certainly last year we had teams doing a long stop and not doing a driver change, and that was all right. And I'll say again that GT3 cars don't have to do the additional fueling stop, but of course when we get to the proper driver change, i.e. Leutwiler having done his 55 minutes, they can, PZ Obera Zurichsee can now do that as quick as they want to, with everything correctly ticked off. The 2 car, though, as a result, has dropped to 6th position in class. But as I say, they haven't really lost anything else. They stay on the lead lap because you can do these longer pit stops because of the speed that the safety car is doing. I was picking up the pace now, but early on, when the accident first happened out of Ascari, the lap times were north of 3 minutes. So no issue at all serving a 2-minute penalty and staying on the, or serving a 2-minute pit stop, I should say, and staying on the lead lap. So Tony Wells, Mikey Benham. Who else do we have in for a long stop? The Jensen-driven CD Sport car.
It's just left now, and that was a 2 minutes 13.
I tell you, the other thing that backs up my theory about you don't have to do a driver change, nobody else has.
Yeah.
So Tony Wells stayed at the wheel, Mikey Benham stayed at the wheel, Michael Jensen still in the CD Sport number 33 car. But there's a slight mystery as to why Julian Andlauer has put in the Porsche for a lap and then switched back again to Nicky Leutwiler. Anyway, headlines being grabbed by Team Virage for the wrong reasons. Let's head to the team now.
That's right, I'm down here with Sascha Lehmann, driver of car number 16 for Team Virage. What a dramatic start that's been for you. Firstly, have you had any news from Matthias? How is he feeling?
I had news from Julian and he's okay, he's out of the car and nothing is happening for the moment. I don't know.
Has he been able to give you a bit of how he experienced it, what happened out there?
I have no information directly from Matthias, but Julian, when he will tell me some information, I will give you back.
Okay, so when you were watching it, how did you interpret what happened?
Directly I was shocked and I knew it was a stupid move from another driver. I don't know which car, I'm not going to say the name or I'm not going to point everyone, but just a move that I don't want to see anymore. It's dangerous for everybody, could injure himself and somebody else. I don't want to see that anymore.
Okay, so I mean, what are you taking away from this, Sascha? It's obviously like a tough start for you here in Monza. I mean, what are you going to take away? How are you going to,
That we had the performance, we were fast. Yesterday we were P2. That today we were unlucky. We had technical issue during the qualifying session. So just today it's not our day. So we keep the best for the next race.
Thank you very much, Sascha.
Thank you.
Sascha Lehmann from Team Virage, speaking very candidly indeed. Now a problem for the 77 Team Thor LMP3. Auden Gudmundsson has come in with a rear left puncture.
Well, there's going to be a lot of debris, isn't there? That's,
True.
That's something that teams will certainly be looking at.
Yep.
So I'm guessing that's going to be debris related. Just looking back at what Sascha said, you've got to take it and bear in mind the emotion involved here. Just seen his co-driver in a very serious incident indeed. I'm not sure what move he was talking about. The safety car, by the way, is going to be coming into this lap, but I'm guessing it was the manoeuvre with the CD Sport car, which, on reflection, was simply to avoid crashing into the back of the stationary car. I'm not really sure what else he could have done. It maybe was a bit of a kind of jerk on the steering, but he saw him very late.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it was that Sascha was so concerned about in
interesting,
terms of manoeuvre.
I thought that was labelled towards Patrice Lafargue rather than the CD Sport car, making the error sort of on his own. But you know, that's again purely an opinion matter, which unfortunately, motorsport, sometimes you do get cars go off the track, rejoin, and are then stationary with everyone needing to react behind. And the problem is, like a motorway accident, the first cars do react, but then those behind just don't have the time.
Absolutely. We're 22 minutes into this race and we're going back green flag racing, Johnny.
Yes, so let's talk about brighter things and the fact that this motor race is still very much alive. 21.5 minutes into it. We haven't had much racing to date, sadly, but let's now try and correct that. And also, I have to get a little sheepish about my earlier claim regarding the pit stops.
Just handing you some sackcloth and ashes.
Yeah, okay. An embarrassing moment. I tell you, Johnny Palmer's very rarely wrong.
I always said that. Every time you are.
Is what it says on my bedroom wall. This rule about the long stops looks like you do have to do has to include a driver change. So that would mean 3 teams not having successfully ticked off their long stop, therefore.
Indeed.
Tony Wells, Mikey Benham, the aforementioned Michael Jensen, they've all done a stop of over 2 minutes, but they retain their drivers.
Yeah, but the number 2 Porsche has.
Yes.
So when they come in for the driver change, will be restricted only by what they need to put in terms of fuel.
Exactly. So a key part of the race ticked off, therefore. Nicky Leutwiler can now focus on completing his 55 minutes. So a lap taken away to his tally, but Julian Andlauer with the bit between his teeth, raring to go for later on in the piece. and has already done, best part of 2 minutes of his stint. All of this will be added together, not only by the team, but clearly by the timekeepers as well, to make sure that everyone has done the prerequisite minimum drive time. The two leaders in GT3, Sarah Bovi and Gabriele Lancieri, switched around from their starting order. 0.6 of a second is the gap, because obviously that gap closed significantly under the safety car. We get to see now whether Sarah is again capable of stretching her legs from the second place car. Ben Keating in third, doing very well to avoid a kind of similar incident to the one we had out of Ascari with Mo Smith, again through a corner that you enter blindly at the second Lesbo, and required quick attention from Ben Keating. He had to run through the gravel, but that doesn't seem to have caused any ill effects to his Aston Martin. Good lap times from the Texan.
John Sharman in the United Autosports car, number 23, making his way by the first of the Iron Lynx cars, now closing in on Sarah Bovi. This is our leader. Gershitz already almost 2 seconds to the good here. So 1:47 dead, more or less, last time around, is pulling away from this chasing group, led by Torsten Kratz, with Antoine Ducas, Freddie Hunt going well, and Dona Munding now in the Black Falcon car. A good restart there.
Yeah, Munding, I get the feeling, is one to look out for in this opening stint. Quicker than those around in the Black Falcon number 12 car. Alexander Maxwell slipping in place. Rob Hodes in the remaining Team Virage car running in 7th, ahead of John Brownson and Nicolas Schatz. Still making waves up the order. Schatz now into the top 10. Running in 9th place and pressurising John Brownson for yet another position. Quite a gaggle of cars all arriving in Ascari at the same time, headed by the Mulner Motorsport Duquesne of Freddie Hunt. And there goes the number 6 car for Nicolas Schatz, as I say. So a bit of ground to make up yet before he's right with Rob Hodes, but the lap times indicate that should happen fairly shortly.
Let's not forget he started down in 23rd position, silver ranked driver, and looking to make as much progress as he can up this order. That delay under the safety car will not have helped that push. Fastest lap again this time around from Dona Munding into the 146s. It's 146.657 from the Black Falcon man, looking to get onto terms of these 3 cars ahead. Already, by the way, the Porsche, which has already burned that stop, has passed the 61 car and the 51.
Yes. Interesting. So Leutwiler not hanging around, did that on the brakes on the inside of Ken Arbe, and Arbe in reaction just running a touch wide out onto the grass creek there, but thankfully not into the gravel itself.
CD Sport car in recovery after the delay they suffered. Remember, that's 2 positions taken despite the fact that Porsche was stopped twice.
Yes, but crucially didn't lose time, in fact gained it. Every time the car rejoined the race, you're able to close the gap back up again, aren't you? Because
it's behind the safety car.
You are compelled to speed up until you find the back of the train once more. So all that time is being gained, and therefore great thinking actually by all those down at TFT and the crew on the strategy. Spotting a bit of a loop, not quite a loophole, but just an opportunity really in the race as it was unfolding. And it's very easy to get wrapped up in the emotion of an incident like that, how dramatic a crash can look, but the smart strategists think, yes, we've got concern for those drivers, but how can we weave this into getting a good race result at the end of it all? And yeah, the boffins on the pit wall would have started to crack open their spreadsheets and think about maybe just exploiting things a little bit.
And so often it's about how quickly they can come to those conclusions. The window of opportunity is pretty narrow. It was a lot more narrow than I think a lot of us thought with the incident of the size that it was. So if this does pay off for the number 2 team, absolute, kudos to the TFT racing team who operate this effort for Nicky Leutwiler. Cool Racing watching things closely. Thanks for the crown. Pushing hard, trying to get by Torsten Kratz before we went into the safety car. That was the move that looked most likely. It's still right there, isn't it? Freddie Hunt going well as well. And another incident involving the 55 Rinaldi car this time, and is that the Racing Spirit Le Mans car
It looks very much like it. Yeah, partly blue, partly white, and it's the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car that misjudged its braking point, tagged the back of the 55, and 2 more cars off down the escape road, one of which was a United Autosports runner in avoidance.
The other one, I think, was the AF Corsa car, the 31 car.
Yes,
it was. It's John Schaumann and Martin Lentudis who managed to avoid that. So another issue. Patrice Lafargue being called to the race director. That's perhaps not a surprise.
So Racing Spirit of Le Mans is Jacques Wolf, and Steve Parrow was in the Rinaldi Racing, the red and black car that was caught in the braking area for turn 1.
Well, happily, he's not lost either of those legality panels, which, with an incident like that, you could almost put a tick in the box and say that's going to happen. It didn't. So that's good news for the Rinaldi car. The Rinaldi driver. Finn Gerschitz, meanwhile, 3.1 seconds ahead now of Torsten Kratz. And it's now going to be about what can Donna Munding do, looking to get by Freddie Hunt. German on the Brit.
Yeah, looking for the opportunity, maybe at turn 1. There have been a number of overtakes already today there. So Hunt being hunted down by Munding in the Black Falcon car. There was no way through as they threaded their way through to turns 1 and 2, but Munding did get a good exit out of 2 and through Curva Grande. There might be the better opportunity the other side into turn 5 and the left and right chicane. Yeah, Munding is on a march here. Try to the left, then try to the right, and gets the place as long as the 12 car can stop in time. It's going to be somewhat compromised on the exit, and Freddie Hunt again though trying desperately to get back in front before this one is firmly secured into the first of the Lesmos. I think the place is Munding's.
Yeah, Freddie Hunt's not giving it up yet. It's great to see the spirit of both these drivers, isn't it? Donna Munding looking to carve a role in LMP racing. Freddie Hunt, the older of the two drivers, and definitely feisty. Not just his father's looks, voice and helmet he's got, it's the spirit as well. But that's the gap. That's the number 5 car from Phoenix Racing in the hands of Finn Gerschitz as our leader, with 4.2 seconds now the gap back to Torsten Kratz and the WTM powered by Phoenix car. That leads this tightly packed group of 4. Yellow flags at turn 7 at the moment for an instant there.
Something else has happened at the second Lesmo. That might be a car running wide and into the gravel. It's looped itself. That is the Fricadelli car of Klaus Abelin, 30, showing not a lot of damage, I'm pleased to say. The door has opened on that car, and Klaus Abelin looking to try and get the steering in the right direction to get the required lock all on his own.
He went early, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he's kept it out the wall.
Done very, very well now.
He's then got the car to the inside and out of line of fire.
The two United Autosports cars had to react very quickly there, though, as well. But yes, good recovery. You would expect that from someone who is used to a much narrower and twistier racetrack than this at Monza, because the number of laps that Klaus Abelin must have completed at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and after a spin, you need to know where to put the car to make it safe initially, and then worry about the 3-point turn afterwards.
Not remotely up to speed.
No, it's not.
Either.
That's a shame, because
there was that cause or effect then is the question here.
Yeah, good point. Maybe a drive issue, which as something has failed, it's pitched him into a spin. Could be a drive shaft going, I suppose. So you get one wheel spinning and the other one not, and it's pitched him into that rotation at turn 7.
Yeah, looks to me, by the way, as our chasing group of 4 are pulling away for the next group along. That's our leader going by the hobbled Klaus Abelin.
So Torsten Kratz will need to be aware of what's going on here, and more so perhaps Antoine Ducas, who could have used that opportunity to get into second place. But Kratz to the right-hand side of the stricken Fricadelli racing car. Antoine Ducas went to the left-hand side, and actually the net result is just about the same in terms of pace as they arrive at the Parabolica.
Does seem to me as if Donna Munding actually got the better of that transaction. I think he's closed a little on that other pair.
Yeah, well, Freddie Hunt was able to offer a response, I will say, to Donna Munding's overtake, but the gap is starting to emerge now to the extent of maybe 2 or 3 car lengths, as the 37 Cool Racing car on the brakes of Antoine Ducas trying to get level with Torsten Kratz. That didn't quite work. This is a real quartet now for second place. I mean, all 4 of those cars having an opportunity to squeeze into provisional podium places. We've had just over half an hour. Now Klaas Abelen's going to have to be careful with yellow flags being displayed at turn 10. Effectively read those as white flags because the car involved is still moving, just at a much, much reduced speed.
So is he stopping, or is he just waiting for those cars to go by?
Yeah, the sensible thing would be to wait for all of the bulk of the traffic to go by safely.
That's your 1, 2, 3, 4 in GT, with the 2 Iron Lynx Ferraris ahead of Ben Keating's Aston Martin, then with a couple of LMP3 cars between the Aston and the number 2 Porsche, which we believe has got an advantage when it comes to the pit stop cycle in about half an hour's time, crawling around turn 10, turn 11 here.
Again, it seems like quite a vulnerable place for Klaus to be, but it is beyond the racing line, because at the point he is now at the Parabolica, the natural racing line is to push out much wider than that. But you're reliant on the Marshall, and the Marshall posts are out on the far left, beyond the runoff, and again, that's not where your eye is naturally drawn to, although the driver briefing will have labelled where all the posts are, and where therefore you should be at least committing some of your attention to regarding warning flags. So now turn 11 is where the yellow flags are.
He stopped.
I think almost on the starter, it is inching its way forward slowly, but yeah, that is a full stop now for the 30 car. And I don't know what the problem is, frankly, but it all started with a spin at turn 7, and now there is an overtake.
Oh, no.
It's a T-bone, not an overtake.
That was
a long way back from Freddie Hunt. He hit the brakes to try and overtake Dona Munding. The first bit happened, but he ended up collecting Anton Ducan on the way through.
He did. So to what effect with Ducan we haven't seen, but it's quite an impact, wasn't it? That would have been the lunge up the inside. Just a little too late, a little too quickly from Freddie Hunt. He'd seen the opportunity, has got the car back running. Now, hopefully that's not had any lasting effects on the car he hit, which was the completely innocent party.
Well, that front splitter has held up to the damage very nicely.
He has got damage though.
Still pretty much intact, but
this again.
The dive plate's gone.
There, didn't look to be, he was just carrying too much speed.
And realised, because he mounted the curb as well to try and just shave a bit more speed off. Ducan will have known nothing about that. I didn't see Ducan in the gravel, so I'm going to assume that Antoine has... he's still tumbling down the order, though, isn't he? So I don't know where that has put Anton Ducan. He's shown us stopped on the circuit now. And I think the first thing that happened with this Mulner car is that the light pod will detach from the race
safety car.
And more contact before we've even reached the safety car, with 2 GT3 Ferraris hitting one another.
So we've got all sorts of carnage at the moment. 61 and 51 involved in a Ferrari on Ferrari bit of action. Watch this again. Up the inside goes the 61 car.
Very similar moment,
wasn't
actually.
It just...
almost a carbon copy, with actually the 61 playing the role of Freddie Hunt. That was Gino Forgione on the inside of Ken Arbe.
With actual carbon involved, yeah. And so we've got 2 or 3 bits of carnage, I'm afraid, at the moment. There is the stricken Fricadelli car. That will be the primary reason, I think, for the safety car.
Agreed, yeah.
Picks up the leader, and that will be absolutely bitter goal for Finn Gershitz, because he got that lead up to 10.5 seconds. Now we start to get more of these teams perhaps realising there's opportunities here.
Yes, so the fuel's going to go in. Driver change will be done separately, won't it?
Yeah.
After the fuel nozzle is detached, but there's no movement again.
There is that. Deep virage do. The other option here is to shorten. Can they shorten the final stop? Or is that a shorter time stop? I think it's a shorter time stop.
Yeah, it is a shorter time stop, because that is intended to be fuel only. And again, is track dependent because of the length of the pit lane differing from venue to venue.
So in have come Black Falcon, the ANS Team JSC management car. Team Virage is number 71, the surviving car there, and the RLR M Sport car. In fact, that's the second stop, isn't it, for RLR? So if they've just realised that they coulda, shoulda, woulda...
Well, they'll be listening to us. Is the obvious result of all that, I would say. Paying attention to the commentary and the fact that Graham Goodwin was correct. Now, the other problem, of course, when you pit during a safety car is... You might incur or suddenly encounter a red light at the end of the pit.
Which is a bit odd, because they're a long way away here. They are nowhere near the end of the lap.
Yeah. Well, to give you an idea, the safety car Is the safety car doing a wave-by at this point, or do we even have wave-bys in Michelin Le Mans Cup? I don't think we do.
We don't. He
So the safety car
picked up the leader anyway.
Is at the end of the second sector, and yes, we wouldn't need to be doing a wave-by this early on in the race. So why is the red light on? It depends why the safety car is out. If it's all to do with Antoine Ducan, who we haven't quite placed yet, are there yellow flags at the first corner with Ducan's car in the gravel? And therefore, if they're recovering that, they don't want to release a car from the pit lane. Because Munding's now been allowed to go from the end of the pit lane, and is on an out lap. But obviously there was a red light initially.
Car 18, meanwhile, that's one of the Milner cars, is under investigation for possible improvement under the yellow flag.
Okay, so that will have been the yellow flag before the safety car, and probably overtaking Klaus Aberlan, because the yellow flags were really moving with the 30 car as it was inching its way to the end of its lap, but it's going to go no further and actually requires the assistance of a tow rope and flatbed to get the 30 car now safely into the pit lane and the 60km/h speed limit. 15 back into the race. Has there been a driver change now for RLRM Sport with Mikey Benham maybe out for a lap? No. Okay.
Are they carrying a problem maybe?
Well, they've ticked off another pit stop of... I'm trying to find the time of that.
So at 2 minutes 14, it's another. It's over the required kind of pit stop. Into the staying in the lead, by the way, Finn Gershitz. But of course has lost all that hard-earned graft.
Yes.
This is not good news for either of the Phoenix cars.
I'm hoping there's not a thought at RLR that they can do a second fuel stop this early on in the race, because the second shorter fuel stop must be done in the final 20 minutes of the race. So once 100 minutes have elapsed, therefore, race leader, who is Finn Gersitz, car 5, comes in and will stop with the team. And this will be a driver change and fuel. So, unsurprisingly, Phoenix Racing will know their regulations back to front because of years and years of racing at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, where, in terms of complexity, I have to say you've seen nothing before you've seen an NLS regulations book, and indeed the one that accompanies the Nürburgring Nordschleife 24 hours. So that car's obviously going to tumble down the order now, Finn Gersitz, so that the pit stops are going to be costly at this stage, but you don't lose the lead. You shouldn't lose the lead lap because of the speed that the safety cars are doing. You're losing quite a bit of track position, but again, the dividends will be paid much closer to the end of the race, when those that haven't yet pitted will come in when everyone else is racing at full speed.
Car 5 under investigation for possible fail in the safety car procedures during the first safety car. That's
car
the leader.
5 is the race leader.
Or was the race leader.
Yeah, Finn Gersitz's car. Possible fail in the safety car procedures. Doesn't tell us exactly what that was.
Well, we saw the safety car come out.
Yes.
And it was a while, wasn't it, after the safety car boards went out. So I'm not sure what that could have been, unless it was to do with the speed the car was going, whatever it might have been. But either way, clearly there's something. Harry Potter there, out and dealing with the incident.
Well, yeah, I suppose, is it a restart issue where Finn was backing up the field and then just decided to go for it when the safety car peeled in? Otherwise, you're not going to be done for overtaking on the safety car because you're the race leader. So I'm scratching my head a little bit there as to what else that might be. But this is the first safety car, and I suppose it's infringement during the first safety car rather than this one.
So this was after the incident that involved the Virage car and the Grain Market car.
There's lots bubbling here. This is turning into a Le Castellet type race where we start spinning plates and yeah, exactly. I'm still not sure I got all of the crucial bits out of that, and we're a month now away from Circuit Paul Ricard's edition of the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Little doubt in my mind, by the way, they've burnt the long stop with the 5. There's the car is held and no work going on. Yeah,
but definitely a driver change. So Hamza Ovega will take charge from Finn Gersitz, but we do still need a bit more Gersitz behind the wheel because he's not anywhere near the 50-minute drive time, minimum drive time for Finn. He's that good a bronze, though. You can put him in at the end.
Has he got out the pits, though?
Well, the safety car is due across the line together with the long line of cars.
the point I'm making here is he's lost a lap.
And he's stuck at a red light potentially here. So yeah, about to go a lap down, Finn Gersitz, which is disaster. Well, he hasn't even moved from. Now, why is that? Because what's the safety car doing in terms of pit, in terms of lap times? 2:58.
Yeah.
So and the pit stop didn't need to be that long for number 5 car.
So there is an issue.
Looking more like that, or maybe they just couldn't get the car refired.
It's gone now.
It has, but I think it's going to be a red light at the end of the pit lane.
Shouldn't be, because the safety car train has passed.
And you're right,
And
the car does
gone.
rejoin with Hamza Ovega at the wheel, but now a lap behind everybody else.
And took 3 minutes and 39 seconds. There was something more
need to be
to
that
that
long.
one.
Yeah.
And in fact has lost a place to Matt Bell, who's taken over from Maurice Smith, who was, remember, very much delayed.
Yes.
So another disaster for the number 5 car, whatever's happened there.
Yeah. The team thought their pit stop was 4 minutes and 13 seconds, but that was the puncture that they were dealing with, and other things as well, potentially.
Black Falcon in, Donna Munding out.
Okay, so this can be their long stop as well, but still, 7-8 minutes of Donna Munding he will have to get back into the car for.
Now, I wonder whether or not the safety car has been this long because we've had that puncture for the Team Thor car. Was that debris that was still there? Were they not happy with the state of the track there? Is there further debris, which there likely was at Turn 1, Turn 2?
Yeah.
2 impacts there.
True, good point. No debris for the Klaas Abelan incident because he spun on his own, didn't he, at Lesmo. Safety car's going to come in this lap, but yes, the point about Freddie Hunt into the side of Anton Ducan and the 61 Ferrari, which is Gino Forgione misjudging his braking point going into the side of Ken Arbe. This is again projecting the GT3s well up the order. The best of them currently in 11th place overall, so that'll be exciting to see how far up a Ferrari can get as we head to the pits now.
I'm joined here by Finn Gersitz, driver of car number 5 for Phoenix Racing. Firstly, Finn, we were just discussing that. You have no idea why that you are under investigation for a possible failure or possible error in the safety car proceedings.
I literally have no idea what I did wrong.
Okay.
Everything felt quite good, so I don't know why I'm now on investigation right now.
Well, if everything felt good and you look great out there, of course, your first time at Monza, you get pole and you've really held on to it right up to your driver's change. Just tell us about that.
Yeah, the start was pretty good. Then directly the safety car came out and we tried to save some fuel and also tires. And then when the safety car go out in the pit again, I had a pretty good restart. I did a big gap to the other guys, and yeah, the lap times was tried constant and also fast, I think, because the gap got lap by lap bigger.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Finn.
Thank you too.
Cheers.
Yeah, still really rather puzzled as to why the pit stop was
as long as it was
3.5 minutes, because that, I think, has done for Finn Gersitz now. They are just out of it because they're a lap off the pace, and Hamza Ovega can pedal as quick as he might do, but and Finn Gersitz due back into the car for about 10, maybe 15 minutes, but they're not going to recover a lap.
Big battle for the lead of the GT3 class at the moment. Sarah Bovey fending off Gabriele Lancieri here. New leader, by the way, is Antoine Ducan.
Yeah.
So whatever happened, I think that might have been a bit of a timing glitch. He's back around to the lead.
Well, very good. And any worry that he might be stranded in a gravel trap somewhere around the Monza Park circuit, we can allay now. And clearly, the pace of the car is good as well. We're 2:37.7 last time around, so we have had a racing lap, haven't we, since the safety car? So that's
we are on that first racing lap.
Right,
drive-through penalties now coming for the jump start, and it's 4 cars that are going to be involved in this.
Yeah.
It is the number 12 car, the number 25, the 30, and the 18. The 18 is the motorsport car currently running in 7th place. The 30 is the Fricadelli Racing Team car. They'll be less worried about that than the fact the car is broken and sitting in the pit lane. 25 car is another car that's been the woes. That's the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car. And the number 12 car is Black Falcon.
Yeah,
so all of those 4 will get a drive-through penalty if and when they next have the opportunity to do so.
The car earlier driven by Donna Munding and handed over to Mike Rosenberg now. So that car has already served its long stop, car 12 for Black Falcon. As now Cool Racing are the new leaders from Alexander Maxwell, who started off 5th, dropped to 6th or 7th, but now he's back up. There's a puncture for Ken Arbe. Front right? No, it's the rear right.
Just after the pits. It's just after the pits. He's got a full lap to do on this.
That's about 5.5 Ks until he gets back to the relative sanctuary of the pit lane and his team. So this is going to be a job just to stay out of the firing line of so many cars that are back on the pace and eager to get some racing laps under their belts. It is a rear right that's gone. I wouldn't expect that around here. Where did debris again.
Where was the hit?
True. Yeah, exactly there. So is that something we should be concerned about for Anton Ducat as well, who was attacked by Freddie Hunt earlier on in the race? But yes, it was a sideways moment, wasn't it, after the collection of Gino Forgione. There's a drive-through penalty now for car 21 because of the incident with the 37.
Yeah.
So that was the first turn 1 incident. I'll probably expect a similar penalty, therefore, for Gino Forgione, just as soon as Eduardo Freitas gets to that. Side by side, Mulner Motorsport, Duquesne.
That's a Nielsen car.
It's the Parabolica, and neck and neck with the Nielsen, as you said. Also a car peeling off to pit lane. But the incident involving Freddie Hunt then on Anton Ducat, that was further up the car from Ducat, who then battered his way over the yellow and black curbing, and I think rejoined there. So any worry, as I say, about the car ending up in the gravel trap on driver's right on the exit of turn 2. There. Benham, is it still Benham in the car? Yes, it is. In the RLR M Sport car, now in the gravel.
Final turn.
Parabolica, okay. Yes, he's gone quite a way off, hasn't he? Away from the white line, the runoff area, and from a long way back. Just loses it, but it was already out of control, I would say, having hit the brakes to try and overtake an LMP3 car up ahead.
It was the 77 car is going by, and I think he just run out of room there.
And he did well to avoid Gino Forgione, which was the Ferrari just ahead, who might have been collected. That's got to be certainly yellow flags and possibly a full course yellow, if not a safety car, to recover that stricken 15 car in the gravel trap. I get the feeling this race is never really going to get going. We have got another hour and a bit to go.
Drive-through penalty for 25 with the incident with car 55, so that's 2 drive-throughs for the 25 car. That's the incident with the 55 car at the first turn again.
You can see now why the majority of the teams put their bronze-rated driver in for the start of the race, because of this high probability of a safety car or a full-course yellow. It will be an FCY in this case, then, to recover Mikey Benham's machine. There must be a recovery wagon or truck, then, that side of the gravel trap, a snatch vehicle to launch forward.
Lines of sight are pretty good there as well, too, so the incident site can be seen early. By the cars coming down the main straight there.
Confirmation of the full course yellow after 2 safety cars that we've had already, and we're not even an hour into this. I wonder how many different spreadsheets have just been closed down. We don't need that one anymore, and now we can scratch that one as well.
In comes a gaggle of cars immediately with this. We yet in the...
Yes, that's the end of the window now for the first driver. 50 minutes done for the LMP3s. We're not quite there for GT though. So we won't see any GT cars pitting just yet. Give that another 3 and a bit minutes, and we will see Sarah Bovey potentially in.
Tony Wells goes through to the lead. He doesn't pit. He's the only one of the leading 8 cars in the order at the moment that doesn't. So Tony Wells goes through into the lead.
Now, I still think there's a theory at Nielsen Racing that they think they've done their long stop. And as per the regulations, as Graham pointed out to me earlier on, your long stop must comprise refueling, tyre change, driver change. Nielsen did not do the third of those things when they came in for their 2 minutes and 12-second pit stop. So they're going to have to do another long stop, which as we read it, which includes a driver change.
Which is the only reason I can explain as to why the Porsche team pitted twice. Is to change the driver and change again.
Wasn't it? That's what where we suddenly had a question mark, thinking, why have they done that? Clearly, there's nothing wrong with the Porsche. I suggested maybe they'd put Julien in just to test something to find out whether there was a vibration somewhere. But no, we think that's now part of the strategy.
There's every chance, by the way, next time around that we may have Sarah Bovey leading overall in a GT car, should the lead 2 LMP3 cars choose to pit. Anthony Wells and Michael Jensen at the moment 1-2, having not pitted.
Ken Arbe's,
actually, they have pitted, but pitted rather earlier, didn't they?
Ken Arbe's right rear Michelin is no longer anywhere close to the rim of that Ferrari. It is tucked underneath the car pretty much, but still just about intact and rotating. Mikey Benham released from the gravel trap. Will he go to the pit lane? No. Happy to stay out. And unfortunately for everybody else, quite a lot of gravel now being chucked across the road on the exit of the Parabolica, as small cars at speed arriving in the pit lane, I think. Full course yellow staying out. We'll get a countdown out of this. Theoretically, this isn't affecting the gaps between the cars because everybody's slowed to 80 kilometers per hour at the same time. They will speed up to race speed at the same time. And therefore the gaps from first to second between Tony Wells and Michael Jensen, as it is now, should be exactly the same as when we went into the caution period.
This is Tony Wells. He's the race leader, having not pitted on this cycle. He still needs to come in to change drivers.
Yep.
Team Thor in for what will be their second stop after the lengthy stop for damage following the puncture for the Ligier. Now I'm guessing we're going to see Anders Fjord back into what I believe will be Anders' first ever LMP3 race.
Yeah, probably so. He came straight from the Renault RS01 trophy, didn't he?
Into LMP2.
With Dennis Anderson directly into P2, yeah.
A lot of GT racing in the past, came very close to being an Audi customer sport factory driver. I think both you and I commentated on him racing and racing well at the Dubai 24 Hours back in the day. With Dennis Anderson moved on with high class to the LMP2 programme, but now adds this LMP3 programme to his WC efforts.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to get his opinions on the baby prototype then after this first run in the series. The full course yellow is going to be withdrawn in the next 5 seconds. So everybody in that remains in the race will be being counted out of that. And now the green flag is waved, so Tony Wells will up the ante, heading out of the Parabolica, but only briefly, because he's going to come straight into the pits.
Now that's going to be a double mistake, isn't it? Should have done it last time.
Yeah. Well, true. And do they now think that this can be a quick pit stop? Because we already will know that they haven't quite read the regulations correctly. As Tony Wells gets out, new driver Colin Noble will clamber on board. But as you say, they are now doing this pit stop whilst everybody else is at green flag speeds, rather than if they'd done it a lap ago, they would have been slowed by the full course yellow. And
they've now got here's the top 4 in GT. Absolutely nose to tell. Sarah Bovey, by the way, didn't lead the race.
Not quite.
Because Garrett Grist, as the race went back to green, overtook all of them.
Yes. That's the only reason, isn't it?
Yellows again at turn 1, turn 2.
So has there been a collision not between the GT cars that we were just talking about, but it must have happened just behind them. Tony Wells still in the pits. Michael Jensen, who was second at the time for CD Sport, second underneath the full course yellow, also in the pits. Gino Forcioni, and this is the reason why there are yellow flags on the exit of turns 1 and 2. It's actually happened on the escape road. It's
the 18.
Motorsport
it's the 18 car.
Yeah, with a wheel
off,
virtually detached from the car. It is still underneath the wheel arch, but no longer located on the hub. And is that an outlap, therefore, for car 18? Yes, it is.
So
Dino Lunardi.
That's going to require another intervention, isn't it?
As I say, this race just isn't getting going at the moment, and it is one of those that even if you get to be on the podium at the end of it, it might be quite a mooted podium. As the Ferraris that we're talking about, Sarah Bovey just ahead of Gabriele Lancieri, and then Ben Keating and Nicky Leutwiler as well. And Leutwiler in the best position of all 4 of these cars, I would say, because they have done their longest stop, and it's a legal one with the driver change included.
Just to put into context here, behind Sarah Bovey, who has led this race from the start, basically, Ben Keating, multiple championship winner in GT cars. Nicky Lertweiler, I think, has won the GT Open in a GT car before now. These are not bronze drivers of no, ambition and achievement.
Certainly
and Sarah
not.
Bovey has been doing an extraordinarily good job here, and continues to fend off the three as around the outside takes a quick look. Does Ben Keating? Not quite able to do it there, but he's now putting Lancieri under pressure, which will be nectar to Sarah Bovey. Can't do it there, of course, because it's under yellows.
Yeah, true enough. Lertweiler, a former Asian Le Mans Series champion. He has also won the GT4 European Championship in the past at AM level, and as you say, competed in the International GT Open last year. Again, in the AM division. So, just waiting to attack, but he doesn't need to force this, because when we get to the genuine pit stops after the 55 minutes, all of these cars will be stuck in the pits for 2 and a bit minutes, whereas the driver change for Lertweiler to Julian Anlauer can be as quick as the team can manage, and then they're fine to the finish, aren't they? They don't need to do another stop.
They don't. They just need fuel and tyres. That's it.
That should put them to the lead of the race, and no looking back when Julian Anlauer is in command.
So Julian Anlauer to come, Ross Gunn to come, Pella Roberta to come, and Dorian Pant to come, and we've got a safety car again. That will be for the recovery of the 18.
Yeah.
The third safety car plus a full course yellow in the first hour of this race.
I've got to say, there must be teams up and down the order that looked at the probability of a safety car here at Monza with relatively little runoff, gravel traps all over the place, always the chance of contact into the pinch points at turn 1, turn 5, the Lesmos, and therefore when you're choosing your starting driver, so many went with the bronze, because the danger is you put a quick driver in the start and all that hard work done by the quick driver is wasted as soon as the first safety car comes out. Well, we've had 3 of them.
Takes a look. Yeah, that's not attached here.
That's possibly the problem, Dino.
I can see what the problem is there. I'll just go around there, says Dino. Where's the nearest bar?
If only I brought a little jack with me and the spare wheel. Le Mans cars used to carry spare wheels. Not today, though. Right, so the 8 car now is in for its pit stop. Nicky Lertweiler staying out to take the race lead for the first time. The car will need to stop, but of course Lertweiler can push a bit further on because he didn't do one of the laps.
Indeed.
He had Julian Anlauer in for 1 lap, so they need to make sure that he does his minimum of 55 minutes. Therefore, if he stops beyond the 55-minute to go marker, we shouldn't be concerned about that, because Lertweiler's already done a very, very small chunk of his stint. The pit stop for car 12 is now under investigation, which is the Black Falcon car.
The day not going well.
No.
Having looked very good.
How quickly things can turn, eh?
Indeed.
In the Michelin Le Mans Cup. By the way, we've had an hour of racing, and therefore, let me try and remind you of all the things that have happened. I might need the best part of 45 minutes to do so, because there's been so much. But on the opening lap, Maurice Smith was very, very slow at the second Lesmo. That meant that Ben Keating, in avoiding action, had to take to the gravel trap. Sarah Bovey had a really good getaway and took the race lead away from Gabriele Lancieri in no time at all, much to the delight of Dorian Pant and the rest of the Iron Dames crew. Then this incident, which, if you've seen already, I would avert your eyes because it's really not a good watch at all. Team Virage further back down the order behind the CD Sport machine. CD Sport car reacted, but I'm afraid Nicholas Luiten just did not have the opportunity to do so. Heading out of Ascari at such a high speed and then jinking to the right. So the initial reaction was good, but of course there's Armco barrier there, and there was no getting out of that incident. It also accounted for Mark Crader in the Grain Market Racing car as well. A move and an ambitious one at that into turn 1 for the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car, picking up the 55 and Steve Parrow and pitching that into a spin. Dona Munding, really good fight with Freddie Hunt, which would continue for the next couple of laps. Then a spin for Klaus Abelan in the Fricadelli racing car at the Lesmo would bring out the first safety car. And we've had 3 safety cars now to date. The 11 car of Torsten Kratz was brought in for its first pit stop. Mikey Benham, bit of an ambitious manoeuvre into the Parabolica. Thankfully, any contact was avoided, but Benham ending up in the gravel trap, I'm afraid to say, at turn 11, which would bring out a full course yellow on this occasion, and his car was quickly recovered. But there would be another safety car as well, and that is where we find ourselves right now in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. And the positions might be slightly misrepresentative right now, but 25 laps have been completed, and it is Garrett Grist who leads. One stop to that car's name of 2 minutes and 13, so that's a long stop done. Although, did Garrett Grist start the race?
He did not.
Okay, so they've done a driver change there as well. Then the GT3 leader, Nicky Leutwiler, for PZ Obira Zurichsee by TFT. 2 United Autosports P3s, Wayne Boyd and Scott Andrews, ahead of Dario Cangialosi for DKR Engineering, Antoine Ducas for Cool, Jonathan Brossard for the ANS team, and Rinaldi Racing's Nicolas Varoni ahead of Rui Aguas for AF Corsa. Colin Noble for Nielsen is your top 10. And 3 GT3 cars have just made pit stops. TF Sport Aston Martin, Ben Keating handing over to Ross Gunn. Dorian Parr takes over the number 9 Iron Dames car, and Paolo Roberti into the 8 machine. Recovery of a car down at turn 2 as we head to the pits again. And Hayley.
I'm joined here by Anthony Wells, driver of Nielsen Racing at car number 7. Now, you got really caught out by that full course yellow. It was going well for you, but then you just the flag went green just as you were about to pit.
Yes, unfortunately, the yellow just came at the wrong time for us, so I couldn't box because I hadn't done my minimum drive time. So we had the lead, but yeah, we had to pit under green in the end, and everybody pitted under yellow, so we dropped from like 1st to 9th. So it was all going really well, but not now. So.
And so, can you just confirm your first pit stop? It was for you the long pit stop that you obviously have to do.
Yes, yeah, we took a long stop at the beginning, which, you know, it was a kind of a different tactic, but it was going to work out pretty well for us. So yeah, up until the yellow, it was all good.
So you've just handed over, obviously, to your teammate Colin Noble. I mean, what's changed, you know, in light of all that, with regards to strategy or tactics?
Well, now it's just a straight race to the end. There's maybe 1 or 2 cars in front have got to swap drivers over, so that we might make up a couple of places, and then it's up to Col, isn't it?
All right, well, thank you very much, then.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Tony Wells chatting to Hayley Edmonds then in the pit lane. Colin Noble taking over. We still think...
I think he's wrong.
They weren't in a good position, actually, or as good a position as Tony might think.
Yeah, I think that pit stop reference stop has got to encompass refuelling, a tyre change and a driver change. I'm reading the regulations, must comprise the following operations.
Yeah.
Will not be considered for drivers stopping in its allocated work area for purpose of a stop and go penalty, but aside from that, it's got to do those 3 things. I think they got it wrong.
And that I still maintain, I mean, I need to dig out the 2020 regulations, but I do think that's a change in the regs from last year, and therefore something that Nielsen might not have spotted, but they kind of won't care now because the race has got out of their grasp for other reasons.
Well, not necessarily, because Colin Noble is in the car. He's quite right, he's in 9th, but behind the safety car train. It's only 11 seconds in terms of the time. He's not lost that badly. So it sort of resets, doesn't it? So what we've got at the moment behind this safety car, Garrett Grist leads from Wayne Boyd, Scott Andrews, Carlo Cangialosi in the DKR Engineering car. We spoke to Carlo at the start of the race, the young man there. Be interested to see what he's got to offer here. Then Josh Skelton in the Cool Racing 37, Jonathan Brossard in the NS Team JSE Management number 6 car, 6th. Nicolas Varoni in the Rinaldi number 66. It's Rui Aguas well up there in the number 31 AF Corsa. What's Rui got to offer here? Colin Noble then next up in that number 7 Nielsen Racing car. It's the TS Corsa car number 73 rounds out the top 10. Then it's Matt Bell, then Leonard Weiss, then Jerome Bleekemolen. They're the top 13. Now behind the safety car, 20 seconds between them with 54 minutes to go in this race.
Yeah. This
is not done. As far as we've got in terms of the GT cars, now that has all changed around. Ross Gunn leads the race with the TF Sport car team getting him back out ahead of both the Iron Lynx cars, with Dorian Pan ahead of Paolo Roberti, then Julian Andlauer in 4th position. But, well, and it didn't work for the Porsche team.
No, agreed. But there's so much for teams to kind of react to in real time and work out, your plan B and plan C strategy. Okay, we're going to go this way, but it is about where the car is on the track and how quickly they need to make these decisions. Regarding the TS Corsa driver, I'm going to stick my neck out and say it's Cian Carey, the Irishman, based purely on Cillian Murphy of Peaky Blinders fame. Okay. They're both Irish, and the CI tends to be a hard kind of K sound. So Cian Carey into the 73. Haven't seen a great deal from the Irishman, I don't think, this year. That might be because of dramas for TS Corsa earlier on in the season. So be interested to see how he gets on.
Safety car is going to be in this lap. I can't understand how Julian Andlauer is 4th. He spent 40 seconds less in the pit lane. Did he pit? He didn't pit on the same lap, did he? He stayed out.
No.
He stayed out.
That's right, yes. So has dropped back.
Well, hang on a minute.
They're all safety car pit stops, though. No, they weren't, actually. But this is a safety car pit stop that's just been done.
Andlauer's at the back of that group.
Yes. And behind Paolo Roberti, behind Dorian Power, behind Ross Gunn. Was it a longer stop for those? No. So he should have bought back some of the time, as we've been saying. Anyway, green flag waves now, and everybody gets going again with the Garrett Grist-driven Team Virage car ahead of Wayne Boyd for United Autosports, and Scott Andrews in 3rd with Dario Cangelosi for DKR Engineering. But those cars starting to filter across the track, almost Formula Ford style, as the number 5 car not on the lead lap, trying to get a bit of a hustle on as well and get that lap back again.
We've got a number of lapped cars in amongst this lead group as well. I wonder, there's no change there. I will need to understand a bit better why that Porsche is still in 4th position.
Well, it was pursuing Ben Keating, wasn't it?
It was nose to tail, with
leading into the safety car.
Yes.
And
those cars then pitted under the safety car.
Under the safety car period. It wasn't a red light because Andlauer
that would show in the pit stop time.
Did a quicker pit stop time. That's very confusing. 3 stops for the Porsche because of the 2 driver changes and, well, 3 driver changes, but the 2 stops in order to make sure that the first long pit stop was a legal one. And now we're in a position where, well, potentially Julian Andlauer could get by Roberti, maybe. But this is going to be a tough ask now. And, of course, any advantage that I thought the PZ Obira crew were going to have by pitting later and for a shorter time to put Julian Andlauer in front, nobody gets past Julian Andlauer. The difficulty is he's now got to get past 3 other cars and only got 50 minutes to do so.
I can only think what's happened here, Johnny, is that it's just a matter of where they came out with the queue in relation to the LMP3 cars. He's joined the queue behind them. He's not profited because he's just joined the back of the queue. There has been other cars pitting with the safety car, and there's been a big lock up there for the DKR car. That's made things confusing for the 37 car behind. That is Josh Skelton. Still Garrett Grist from Wayne Boyd, Scott Andrews. But this should be a sprint to the finish now.
The only variable, and this is kind of like thinking on my behalf, is that because Nicky Leutwiler needed more drive time, he had to go almost beyond that 55-minute window, by which point the other cars had made their stops and were behind the safety car, so have caught up time, therefore, haven't they? Because they've been able to motor round and catch up with the safety car train. That's not necessarily a luxury that Julian Andlauer had. However, he is now ahead of Paolo Roberti, so let's not
write him off. I think you're right. It's to do with I
think they've bought time back again because of the safety car.
I think that's more or less what I was trying to explain, but doing it really badly. But apologies, viewers.
It happens at the Nürburgring as well, whereby if you're going into a yellow flag area, you're allowed to gain that time back again until you're into the speed limit. and it happens a number of times on the Nordschleife, and it's kind of what's happened here as well, just purely because of where the cars were and where they found the safety car.
Absolutely. We've got drive through the penalty for the 61. We saw that contact with the 51. It was AF Corsa Ferrari and AF Corsa Ferrari at turn 1 again. 3 incidents we've seen there so far. 2 cars running very wide there.
Yeah.
One was the Cool Racing car.
Colin Noble in the Nielsen machine, potentially. So they now head back along the main straight.
Scott Andrews, by the way, up to 3rd.
Yes.
So it's a United Autosports 2-3.
That is how they restarted, actually, with Cangialosi.
I think he's just retaken that position. Though.
Okay. Well, Cangialosi then, looking racy from the restart, certainly.
And my apologies, it's Cangialosi that's taken 4th from Josh Skelton, isn't it? That's the change.
Right. Yes. So DKR ahead of Cool Racing.
But that's just reversed again.
Can't keep up with this. Well, partly maybe because it was the cars that ran wide just now at the Parabolica.
That was where the change came. Yes.
Yeah. And Colin Noble lost a bit of time as well.
Noble's right with them now.
Oh, he is right with them.
So remember, he restarted in 9th position.
Maybe he made that off-track moment work for him.
And he's gone up the inside of the DKR man as well. So it's another position for Colin Noble.
It is.
So all that went wrong for Tony Wells is beginning to come right for the young Scots.
And also through Nicholas Varoni.
Yeah. So it's going wrong at the moment for the youngster in the DKR car.
So to get ahead of Cangialosi there, Rui Aguas can't be far away for the AF Corsa number 31 Ligier. Matt Bell will be eager to get going as well in the now fixed 69 car. Remember, that was Maurice Smith's mount, which was going nowhere quickly at the Lesmos on the opening lap. But Matt Bell has got a wriggle on and is now into the top 10.
Right, and whilst this is all going on, we've got dramas galore in GT. Ross Gunn now leads from Julian Andlauer. Paolo Roberti is still in 3rd, but Dorian Pan is down to 4th. So it's a big reshuffle there in the GT order as well.
Yeah.
This is the lead GT battle, not the blue car. That is lap down, Canabe's car. That is Julian Andlauer. The Ferrari defending there.
He was, and Andlauer thought the door was going to be left open for him, and then suddenly realised I've got to leap on the anchors here to hold things up again.
That's Matteo Cressoni.
Yeah.
Not a man known for being easy to pass.
Well, that's true.
However.
And there's no connection, by the way, between why would there be, between the blue and white Ferrari and the blue and yellow Aston Martin. We have seen in the past in this championship 1 or 2 cars maybe helping teammates out, but there is Julian Andlauer's opportunity into turn 1, and Cressoni does the sensible thing, not being on the lead lap to allow the Porsche by, so that now Julian Andlauer will have plain sight on the car that stands between him and the race victory, which is Ross Gunn's TF Sport Aston Martin, the car he shares with Ben Keating. So the contact involving car 7 and car 66 at turn 2 is now labelled as no further action. I would have said that was at turn... And that's not this incident, that's why. The 61 and the 51 are completely separate incident. The 7 and the 66 was involving the Nielsen racing car and Rinaldi Racing. I'm trying to remember that one.
We didn't see it, I don't think.
Well, was that Tony Wells or was that Colin Noble?
Well, they were the 66 and the
7 have been together recently, haven't they?
They have, so I'm guessing that's pretty recent.
That's pretty fresh, and no further action because both were able to continue and are very much both in the fight. As there's a spin at the Ascari corner for the Black Falcon car. That was up alongside another LMP3, and it meant that Dona Munding did not get the ideal line. He's now completely across the track at Ascari, and the fast right-hand Porsche sticks it into reverse. Double wave yellows being displayed, but I challenge anyone to really be able to see those double waved yellows in time. Of course, the earlier Marshall post will be showing more yellows as well, but here comes the first runner. Are we going to have dramas as a result of this?
On the curb.
It was up alongside the 6 car, but no contact.
Miraculously missed both the cars there.
But the compromise run, that was all down to the tighter line that Dona had to take and the curb that's unsettled the car and pitched it into a very slow speed spin.
This is the incident. So it's contact between, it
was at turn 2, so it will happen now on the run out of the corner. Nothing else. I'm not surprised that was a no further action, because nothing happened. I'm not sure it was that incident.
Fastest lap of the race, by the way, now goes to Garrett Grist, leading the race, 5.38 seconds up on Wayne Boyd now.
The fact that the track stayed green at turn 9 suggests to me that Donor Munding did get out of that nightmare moment as he was doing a 14-point turn at one of the quickest parts of the track.
I don't know about you, but I was gritting my teeth throughout that.
Yeah, well, knowing the extent of the accident on the exit of Ascari in the opening 15 minutes, you just close your eyes and hope that we're not going to get a similar situation. But Donor Munding back in the race and running in 17th position, away from Nicky Leutwiler. Things are going very sweetly for him. Could be a bit better, but he will know the full extent of why Julien Andlauer rejoined in 4th position. And there was a definite grin there for the Swiss driver behind the mask, handing driving duties over to the young Frenchman Julien Andlauer, who is now only a second away from Ross Gunn. Is there the opportunity to get ahead of the Aston Martin in the closing 45 minutes or so? Still a long way to run in this. It feels like we've been racing for a lot longer than an hour and 17 minutes.
A lot less than that, actually, if you take out the safety cars and the full course yellows. It's been a pretty ill-disciplined hour and 20 minutes so far from the field. And lots of them up and down the field. But hopefully we can now get down to some solid racing here. It's another fastest lap of the race from Garrett Grist. Scott Andrews goes up to 2nd place. The United Autosports cars have swapped positions. It's now 22 ahead of 23.
And Dario Cangellosi is losing spots in the DKR engineering car, just being overtaken by Rui Aguas for AF Corsa. So Nicholas Varoni for Rinaldi Racing in the Dayglow yellow and green. Rinaldi Racing Duquesne is running in 5th ahead of Scotsman Colin Noble, Portuguese Rui Aguas, and then Cangellosi for the Luxembourgish team, DKR Engineering. Cangellosi from the United States, along with his co-driver John Brownson.
It's hotting up, isn't it? Grist pushing on hard. Wayne Boyd running 3rd, dropping back off Scott Andrews here. There's Grist just disappearing out of shot. 3rd car in this little group is the 2nd place car of Scott Andrews. Then it's Wayne Boyd. And then further back, there's Josh Skelton just in the background behind Boyd's 23 car. So it's 71 from 22, 23, 37, the top 4. It's another fastest lap as Garrett Grist just turns the screw. 1:44.890 on his lap 34, or the car's lap 34. 2 cars here, both lapped cars, the CD Sports and RLRM Sport cars, and it's those 2 that the United Autosports cars are going to have to deal with. But they've both got quick men aboard now. Adam Ateki, and it'll be Malte Jakobsen, won't it? But Jakobsen is laps down now.
He is now, and that's really
my apologies,
unfortunate.
it's not Malte Jakobsen, it's Tommy Foster.
Okay.
My apologies, RLRM Sport.
Yes, so Tommy in the 15, having taken over from Mikey Benham. But yes, and now a stopped car is the 5, former race leading Black Falcon car. Well, it was already a lap down for Hamza Ovega. Sorry, it is the Phoenix car, yes, but former race leader.
Yes.
But not the Black Falcon, which is the 12, you're quite right to point out. Turn 5, there are yellow flags. Well, that is not turn 5. No. Turn 1 is where there are yellows, and turn 5 is the exit of the 2nd chicane. So again, the scope here for a full course yellow, or something even more serious regarding quelling this race. We'll find out in a moment or two, but the Phoenix car for Hamza Ovega, as I say, still was already off the lead lap, and kind of race was done when it looked very, very strong indeed when Finn Gersitz started the race from pole position. Julien Andlauer needing to be cautious of these 2 yellow flag areas, one of which actually now is back to green, which is turn 5. You cannot attempt an overtake, carry out an overtake in the yellow flag area, but otherwise it's a green racetrack, and definitely Andlauer with that rear wing shaking around a fair bit on the PZ Obeira Zürichsee Porsche, but it's holding firm at the moment, and the gap's down to half a second. It was a second just 2 laps ago.
This is hotting up. GT looking like a real battle to the finish here. Ross Gunn with his mirrors full of Porsche, and with bits of Ferrari when he gets the chance to see by the Porsche as well. Dorian Pan just a little further back from this trio, but still very much in contention. Leutwiler will be enjoying this, I think, right now. I think he's probably feeling quite confident. Caught out by the safety car timing, I think. We can attribute that to.
Yeah, and they couldn't avoid that because the fact that Leutwiler needed to make sure he'd done his 55 minutes, and Andlauer cannot exceed 65 minutes, but they should be absolutely fine there as well. All the time in the pit stops, by the way, does not count the drive time. It's counted from the start of the race to pit in, and the time you leave at pit in, and then if you spent, let's say, 10 minutes in the pit stop with the same driver, that wouldn't count to your 55. Down towards the second of the chicanes, and again just trying to get Ross Gunn slightly out of his rhythm here, but it will take a lot to do that. Some gravel caught there by French driver Julien Andlauer, and one ready to pounce is definitely Paolo Roberti. We shouldn't overlook the Ferrari in third position as the number 8 car.
3 different cars, 3 quite different strategies to this race. Less than 3 seconds between them. It's gripping stuff.
If they start to go side by side with one another, then I wouldn't discount Dorian Pan either, because she's just loitering the other side of the blue car that was formerly driven by Ken Arbe and now has at the wheel Matteo Cressoni.
Yeah, running last in the class, but in the middle of this this group.
Yeah.
On the trio, there's the blue and white Ferrari. Double yellow at turn 1 again.
Yeah, that's probably still because of the Phoenix car, maybe. Let's hope there hasn't been another incident into the first of the 2 chicanes. Ross Gunn rounding the Parabolica, getting to that stage of the day now where the lights are becoming slightly more golden, shadows are lengthening as well, which will cool down the main straight, overlooked by grandstands both left and right. And they thunder their way through to begin another lap of the Temple of Speed. Very different lines being taken by all 3 of these cars that lead the GT3 category in this round 3 of the Michelin Le Mans Cup for 2021.
Aston Martin got much the better run through turn 1, turn 2. Yellow flags have disappeared. There is Ben Keating watching with no little interest.
Yeah, slightly apprehensive maybe, although now actually Roberti is starting to pick off Julien Andlauer, so distracting definitely for the Frenchman. He's having to defend. Loads of gravel chucked into the face of Andlauer there by Ross Gunn's Aston Martin as they leave turn 5 rather, and into 6 now, the first of the Lesmos.
This is cracking stuff in GT.
Yeah,
Come back again, TF Sport. Enjoy this part. This is great stuff. Ross Gunn watching mirrors, but pushing on. Dorian Pan work to do to get on the back of these 3, and with Matteo Cressoni between them. Garrett Grist, meanwhile, while we're watching this, is pulling away to lead this race. He's nearly 12 seconds ahead now of Scott Andrews, who still has Wayne Boyd in his mirrors. Josh Skelton a further 3.5 seconds back with Nicolas Varoni, and Colin Noble next up behind them. Noble has got his mirrors full of Rui Aguas.
Gaps closing between Varoni and Josh Skelton, mainly because that was the best lap of the race so far for car 66, Rinaldi Racing. So Varoni down to just a second away now from the Brits' rear bumper on the Cool Racing car, number 37. Across the line, almost as one. Again will go Ross Gunn, Julien Andlauer, Paolo Roberti. Throw a blanket over them. And Dorian Pan will be catching up a little bit with, well, keeping pace with Matteo Cressoni, which is every credit to her. And as I say, these 3 cars that lead GT3 will not be circulating as quickly as they might be in clean air. So there is the chance that that will suck in the lap down Cressoni blue Ferrari, but potentially then the 4th place car for Dorian Pan as well. So Iron Lynx with 3rd and 4th place cars in the order. Then the AF Corsa car of Andrea Montimini, and the car that is a lap down and actually timed as the last car in the race is the blue and white Ferrari of Matteo Cressoni. More pit stops under investigation.
That's
for the number 2
car. Ooh. I'm not sure I saw it, unless there's something, you know, in terms of the work done on the car that wasn't in order. I think they tick the boxes. We'll clear up one thing, and with thanks to Jens Jensen in the press room here at Monza that sorts us out with the problem there was. Sorry, the thing we didn't understand about why the Black Falcon car was in the pits for so long. It was because Finn Gershitz gets an 80-second pit stop penalty. This is the new rule for the bronze drivers this year, and one of the few that's received a penalty that's actually racing here this weekend.
Yeah, okay.
A couple of the teams have opted to switch drivers out that otherwise would have accepted penalties. So thanks very much to Jens. It's been a challenging week for Jens this week. He's Danish. I actually need to say no more.
Of course. Football related. Interesting night boding, by the way, for tomorrow here in Italy.
Isn't it?
Graham and I are English.
We're in Italy.
Stuck in the middle of Italy. Euro final going to be very interesting from 9 o'clock local time tomorrow. Meanwhile, let's focus on the matter in hand, and the Aston Martin leading the Porsche and the Ferrari of Andlauer and Paolo Roberti, with a slight black cloud then hovering above the Porsche now in terms of this pit stop that is under investigation. But yes, that's useful information to know about the car that we thought had problems and in fact did not, and there'll be something to pay attention to later on in the season as well, with a sliding scale of the extra penalty seconds.
So just looking at the scale I keep handy for the last half hour, then 20 minutes of any race, particularly the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and I can accurately tell you that all three of these cars are within lunging distance of each other.
Yes.
Remember though, the 97 car here, not in it for points, will be invisible for points. It's a guesting car this weekend, but would take home the trophies, which would be really annoying if you're in it for the full season.
Andlauer looking higher speed, I would have said, on the run into Ascari, but Roscon did very well to place the car in the right position so that the Porsche couldn't use the extra legs in any meaningful way. Andlauer had to leap on the brakes into the first part of the Ascari chicane, and again, this is just more about moderating the Porsche's speed by the placement of the Aston on the road. I think if Andlauer could get ahead of the TS Sport Aston Martin, I think you'd see a gap emerging. So it is about Roscon trying to keep behind him, not through overly defensive driving, but just car placement, keep behind him the Frenchman.
This is a battle for fourth. This is Josh Skelton trying to fend off Nicolas Veroni. What is this doing? It is bringing Colin Noble back into play for this fourth, fifth place battle. There's Noble behind. And just behind him, Rui Aguas is dropping back a little from the Scotsman. Portuguese driver, Rui, still in the hunt here. That's the best finish we've seen from the 31 car. Well, best overall race performance from the 31 car so far this season.
Quite a bit of damage trailing from the back of Colin Noble's car, which I haven't spotted before. Is that maybe a legacy of the contact that was a no further action at turn 2? The rear right looks very battered indeed.
Matteo Cressoni gets a black and white flag for abusing track limits.
I just wonder whether that's something that's happened on this lap, because the previous lap was a very good one for Colin Noble. A 1:45.3 was the car's best. But there's now quite a bit of damage on the rear right corner, and the bullet is in danger of being detached entirely from the car.
There was that contact, wasn't there, early in the race, wasn't there?
When Tony Wells was at the wheel. Okay, yes, true. Or maybe it extends all the way back to that then. 51, yes, labelled as abusing track limits. That is just a warning, though, for Cressoni.
And Colin Noble is catching this pair. He's now under a second. It was just under 2 seconds last time around.
Colin's not losing time now, so maybe that damage has been there for a good while, and he is driving around it. Could be getting worse, of course, with a bit more curb hopping, which has loosened one or two components on the rear. 40 laps completed, half an hour to go, and a new middle sector record just set by Garrett Grist again. 12.6 seconds to the good now for Team Virage. The number 71 car he shares with Rob Hodes, on course for a very good result at the moment. I'm trying to remember when the 71 car made its stop. And did they do a driver change there?
They did. They've been box standard all the way down the line. They came in, did it within the pit stop window, and cycled back round. So for all the kind of strategic nous that was being applied elsewhere, they kept it
very
straightforward and have come out with an advantage. And Garrett Grist, who's just looking quicker and quicker these days, exploited that to the max. He's now 13 seconds to the good ahead of Scott Andrews. pulling away. Under half an hour to go. And the battles look still set to be decided include this trio, potentially quartet of LMP3s, led by Josh Skelton, then Nicola Veroni, Colin Noble and Rui Aguas. These four separated by about 3.5 seconds. GT, it is almost a literal blanket you can throw over the top three, with Dorian Platt dropping away a little from that battle. Still has not passed the lapped Matteo Cressoni. So the last time we saw them by.
Grist into the middle sector. In fact, he's now heading through the Ascari chicane with a Ferrari to get by in a moment or two, which will be Andrea Montemini. And out of the second Lesmo, 3 cars completely together. This is the battle for 4th position. Josh Skelton ahead of Veroni, ahead of Colin Noble. And the gaps are coming down steadily. But Colin Noble with the 145.8 last time around actually wasn't quite as quick as the 2 cars ahead. So they are trading very impressive lap times. Jeroen Blekemolen could be potentially on the move. You've got Cian Carey ahead of him. Last time through, the Dutchman doing a 146.7, which is about the same sort of speed as those in front, in fact. Dario Cangellosi finding speed now as well with a new personal best time for that car, the number 3 DKR engineering machine, which is in 8th place.
Well, he's been lacking track time, really. There's not a huge amount of practice time in these Michelin Le Mans Cup race meetings. So the young man thrown into real melee here, wasn't he? It'll be interesting to see just exactly what he can unlock as he gets more and more opportunity behind the wheel of the car.
Roscon still out front, only by 0.3 of a second though, and will this pressure start to tell? Well, probably not when you're talking about the drivers of the calibre of Roscon, Julian Andlauer, Paolo Roberti, and Dorian Pan. If you can get close to that leading trio, will learn an awful lot, even just pursuing Roberti to the flag. They're both out of the same team, the Iron Lynx awning, remember. 4 seconds is now the gap. She had a tricky last circuit, in fact, just north of a 1:50 when those cars ahead are consistently pounding around in the 1:49.8.
Hammering along this lot. This is another tightly packed group. Significant car in the lead of this group. This is Matt Bell aboard the number 69 car, one of the 3 joint leaders of the championship right now. To that moment, point in a moment, the number 11 WTM powered by Phoenix car ran second, of course, for such a long time here. Then the TS Corsa car and the number 21 Milner Motorsport car with Jeroen Blekemolen. Matt Bell, that number 69 car, together with the 23 car that currently runs 3rd, Wayne Boyd at the wheel of that car, and the number 7 Nielsen Racing car. Running 6th with Colin Noble. All 3 of those cars currently an identical point score of 33 apiece.
Yeah.
And oddly, only the Colin Noble car has won a race of those 3.
It just shows you can build consistent points hauls without necessarily taking a victory. We have only had 2 races, the points yet to be applied for the 3rd race, because we don't know what order they're going to finish in yet, and that should mean that a number of different point scores are therefore possible. But yes, an intriguing little set of 6 drivers all tied together as the championship leaders. Damage on the rear left now of Matt Bell's car, I've noticed. That bullet is also working its way loose a little. Not to be overly concerned about that though. Just protruding slightly the wrong angle for me. Meanwhile, the TS Corsa car goes through Curva Grande and to the inside line. Now this is the 11 car catching up with Matt Bell, isn't it?
It is Leonard Weiss
yeah.
looking for a way by, and he's looking racy right now.
And tucked in behind cars that are not on the... No, they are part of this battle.
Oh, they are, very much.
Yeah, so that's Cian Carey and Jeroen Blekemolen, yes, so closing the gap.
It is the 69 Ligier with a gaggle of Duquesnes behind.
And then Roscon, if you waited another 43 seconds, he would appear out of the second of the Lesmos.
Who is still, by the way, fending off very close behind Julian Andlauer and Paolo Roberti, with Dorian Pat still struggling to hang on here, dropping to something like 5 seconds back from the leading group. There's an opportunity to see whether or not the Duquesne version of this car has an advantage on the straight line speed over the Ligier. I think the answer there is yes, it does.
A resounding yes. Just clever driving from Matt Bell to make sure that at no point did Leo Weiss have the opportunity to gain advantage in terms of a place.
There's another go here, and this is another opportunity. He's going to go to the outside. Is there going to be room?
Definitely room. And then the question of whether he can swing across the nose of Matt Bell. Leo Weiss could have done it then, but he didn't. And now Matt Bell thinks, well, I'll just make the decision for you then, and tuck back into line behind Leo Weiss, who was a little bit skittish on the exit, didn't get the ideal line out of 2 at all. And now into Curva Grande. Is Leo Weiss going to be a sitting duck this time around to Matt Bell?
It's nip and tuck stuff, and these points are going to matter for these places.
Yeah. Yeah, so important. So we're focused on the GT3 battle right now. The 97 Aston Martin leads it, and Hayley Edmonds has found her way to TF Sport.
I'm joined here by Ben Keating, driver of car number 97 for TF Sport. Now, Ross Gunn, your coach, your teammate, is currently leading the GT3 category. Yes, fantastic. Now, you did a fantastic job because you managed to really kind of close the gap between the competitors in the final minutes of your stint. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we had a really good in-lap. That was a big deal for us. I had so much in crazy traffic out there. I had to go through the gravel to avoid a car one time. So much crazy traffic with the P3 cars that I lost a lot of time. So when we had the safety car, we kind of bunched up again. Again, we had some P3 cars in between us. But when it came down to that last lap, we were going safety car. We haven't gone there yet, but it was like 20 seconds to go to safety car. I kept pushing hard to catch up the cars in front of me, and luckily for me, they slowed down quite a bit pretty early. So on the end lap, it really gave me the opportunity to really catch up to them and close the gap. I came up into the pit lane right on their tail, and then we had a great pit stop. We timed everything perfectly, and we came in third, but we left in first. And so far, Ross has been able to keep it there.
And it's looking tough out there, it's not going to be an easy feat. I mean, but you're also here for next week, of course. It's first time Michelin Le Mans Cup, but next week is WEC. You're here to learn the track. Tell us about what you've taken away from this so far.
Well, it's such an incredible track. I mean, this is a special place. Not only is my first time to be in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, it's my first time to be at Monza. So I really wanted to come in, have an opportunity to experience the track, experience the traffic, where to be passed, where do you want to pass, and this is a great opportunity to do it. It's been a lot of fun. It's clearly good racing. It's very close, and it's been a lot of fun to be here.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Yeah.
Ben, fresh from a victory at the Watkins Glen 240 as well, so in a good, rich vein of form currently in this season. And as we were enjoying that interview with Ben Keating, a rather robust manoeuvre there from Colin Noble to get ahead of Nicholas Varoni, who was on the fight back coming out of the second chicane. Did get the overlap, but Colin wasn't going to allow him back through.
He wasn't, and you're right, there is significant damage to the rear of that Nielsen car, isn't on the right-hand side rear of the car, but that was robust. Maybe a little bit of shoulders involved there, but I have to say, the kind of gutsy stuff being delivered on track that Ben Keating was talking about as we were watching the LMP3 battle, the kind of gutsy stuff that Ben was talking about happening in GT as well, and it continues, doesn't it? Trent Bleekemolen, by the way, has pitted in the number 21 Milner Motorsport car. That's an odd time for that to happen. You would expect that must be a problem for the 21. Colin Noble, though, is pulling away of the 66 car and is looking to get onto terms with Josh Skelton, a couple of seconds up the road in fourth place. So that Scott, who has race-winning form, of course, here, one of the joint championship leaders, as we said a little while ago, is off in search of another hatful of points to stay in this title hunt.
Out of the Lesmo goes the battle involving Noble, Varone, Rui Aguas, only 0.6 of a second away. Daniel Cangialosi would love to be part of that trio fighting over 5th position, but he's not quite close enough at the moment. 3.5 seconds away. Bigger gap to Leo Weiss as well. Now, though, we are beyond the point of 100 minutes, so we're starting to see cars come into the pit lane, including the race leader, Garrett Grist, for the second pit stop. This is for fuel only, remember. Very other minor work permitted, but all the P3s will have to come in for a second regulated stop.
Missed the 20-minute mark, didn't I? That's why Jerome Bleekemolen is in. Here, Garrett Grist is going to be on pit lane now. And in comes the Black Falcon car. That had bottled up, by the way, Josh Skelton for a little wee while, and I think that's helped. It has helped Colin Noble. He's closed that gap by another second. So the gap now from 4th to 5th is under a second and a half. Colin Noble is catching Josh Skelton. Potential trouble here. We heard, didn't we, earlier, that we're looking at pit stop procedures for the number 2 car. That's the Porsche, currently in a very close run, second place to the TF Sport car. Team manager car 2 to the stewards in race control immediately. That doesn't sound good, does it?
No, it doesn't. For
the prospects of the number 2 Porsche, Julian Andlauer and Nicky Ledvaler. Black and white flag, meanwhile, goes to Wayne Boyd, currently running second with that pit stop underway for the Team Virage car. They're going to have to follow the car down pit lane.
I'm still scratching my head regarding the number 2 car. As you said, there was an earlier message to say it was a pit stop infringement that had been spotted and was being reported to the stewards, and now a conversation needs to be had in race control from with the team manager at PZ Aubera Zurichsee. So, and normally you get a message like that when the team manager is sent to the steward room, and then very shortly afterwards you get a decision. But it's being explained, and a chance, I suppose, for the crew at Car 2 with a chance to express their opinions, their side of the argument. Black and white flag for car 23, you've mentioned, I think. And
I have.
More cars coming into pit lane, including, well, still 1 or 2 of the LMP3s, but not the bulk of them. You can do this stop at any point in the final 20 minutes. Scott Andrews deciding to stay out ahead of teammate Wayne Boyd. Things look rosy for United Autosports at the moment, but there's a lot more set to change.
Well, I guess if you're in a position where you can't push on pace right now, the sensible thing is to go as long as you possibly can, because that means you've got more opportunity to take advantage should there be a late race caution.
True. You
can take advantage of, so you don't go early if you don't have to. And if at the moment Wayne Boyd doesn't seem like he's got the pace to challenge Scott Andrews, he might just as well try to do this on strategy.
Yeah. Meantime, he'd rather makes the decision a little simpler for you.
Meantime, someone who absolutely has got pace is Colin Noble. He is all over now. Josh Skelton, remember, it was a second and a half a couple of laps ago, maybe.
Yeah,
it's not now.
I just wonder whether that's maybe an inner wheel arch skin that is getting worse and worse. It looks to be getting worse and worse. The good news for Nielsen is it's not slowing the car down at all. In fact, if anything, it's making it a bit quicker. No, it won't be, but it's Colin Noble that's making it a bit quicker, and is truly well revved up in terms of improving his position, which is currently 4th. And this, you know, the fact that all of these cars have to pit again adds massive variable to this, because each of those pit stops has got to be done perfectly. And for us to retain exactly the same order would be a rare thing coming out of each of the stops.
The 71 car has put Rob Hodes back in the car.
Right. Now, okay.
They'd only stopped once. Now, why would that be necessary?
I genuinely have no idea. Because if you reckon that they pitted at the exact point between the 2 50-minute markers...
I thought they did.
Yeah, well, we were both wondering about that. But Hodes is back in, you're quite right in saying, so that for the final 15 minutes.
Unless it's a problem for Garrett Grist, we have to be wrong, and he must have got in at the final safety car before the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Which means Rob hasn't done his time.
I have to say his lap times didn't suggest a problem.
No.
So I don't think there was an issue for Garrett Grist, but he must have been put in early. And now there's a question mark, therefore, about the 71 and whether that long stop again is a legal one as far as the stewards are concerned, because it doesn't tick off the driver change potentially. Matt Bell's in for Cool Racing, and that car still carrying a bit of damage, but they cannot address that during this stop. All you can do is put fuel in, and the 69 car should hopefully rejoin very shortly. Graham's just kind of shrugging and throwing his hands up in the air.
Oh, hang on a minute.
I got that feeling from the Le Castellet race, and I'm getting that from this as well. There's just so much going on here to try and stay on top of.
Potential trouble here for both the AF Corsa and the Nielsen Racing teams as well. Both of them required in race control immediately, just as Colin Noble goes by Josh Skelton.
Skelton went off the road.
He did.
He left the road briefly at the exit of turn 7, kicked up a massive amount of dust from the gravel trap, and Colin Noble wasn't going to be invited twice there to take the position.
Well, Colin Noble will be hoping against hope that there is no penalty to come here, because this is looking better and better in terms of championship position for the number 7 car. Watch here, and he did. He lost the back end of the car, was looking to recover that. Did well, rather, to recover that.
He did, yeah.
But lost momentum, and that was easy pickings for Colin Noble, and now under pressure for the 2 cars behind. So, joint championship leader, the number 22 United Autosports car, leads the race with Colin Noble, joint championship leader, 3rd. And where is Matt Bell, who's taking his final pit stop now, is down in 15th position.
20-year-old Cumbrian driver Josh Skelton under pressure this time from Nicholas Varroni, who's on the outside. He does go very deep, but Varroni got the better momentum through the corner, but then couldn't make use of it as he applied the throttle coming out of turn 2. That's rain light flashing as well, I noticed, on Varroni's car. He's probably caught that by accident.
In slight panic there, because I think he almost drove up the back of Josh Skelton. It was great defence from Josh Skelton.
Well, he expected Josh to suddenly come out of turn 2 at a much greater speed, and it was a different run that Varroni took through that sequence of turn 1 and 2, and had much better momentum, but just couldn't utilise it because, again, of where Josh had put the car on the road. Just tucked in behind still Rui Aguas in the blue and white AF Corsa car. Scott Andrews leads with 50 laps now completed, and we're into the final 12 minutes.
Meanwhile, while we're watching these intriguing battles of LMP3, a change in GT position. 2 leading cars, still the TF Sport Aston Martin from the number 2 Porsche. They're pulling away a little from Paolo Roberti, now got a gap of nearly 3 seconds over the championship leading number 8 car.
But it's 0.4 of a second that separates the top 2, crucially, and Julian Andlauer is just putting himself in a place ready to pounce if, and it's a big if, there is a minor mistake from Ross Gunn, but he hasn't put a wheel wrong yet in the TF Sport car.
In comes Josh Skelton for his final stop, and following in Rui Aguas.
So for AF Corsa, or actually for Cool Racing and AF Corsa respectively, those 2 cars will sit out the next couple of moments purely because they have to tick off another pit stop. The fuel nozzle is ready. It will be applied whether fuel goes in or not, actually, and I think there have been occasions previously in the season where actually no fuel was going in, but it does need to be attached for a set amount of time. Tyre pressures can be checked, you can clean the windscreen, you can replace the drinks bottle, but very little else.
So do we think the race control message here for the number 7 is to point out to them their strategy is wrong and there's a substantial penalty to pay? They didn't change the driver in the long stop.
Yeah, well, we were suggesting that for a long time, that needed to be the case. And maybe that's going to be explained to them in greater detail before the penalty is issued. But it's a good theory. 10 minutes to go. It's the 3rd round of the year of the Michelin Le Mans Cup, live from Monza. We are much later in the evening than we expected to be because the race was delayed due to a big crash in the Porsche Carrera Cup France supporting category. Thankfully, we heard that the driver was okay. But that all happened towards the latter portion of the lap and rather put us out of our stride as far as the Michelin Le Mans Cup race is concerned. Set to be completed just over 20 minutes later than planned, therefore. So a bit of later evening action here at Monza. Conditions could not be more perfect, and at certain angles these race cars look even better with the golden setting sun.
Indeed, this is Scott Andrews, still owes us that final pit stop, but is the race leader. I think the race leader comfortably at the moment.
Big chunk out of the rear right wheel arch of that United Autosports car, I've noticed as well.
Out comes Wayne Boyd after the final pit stop for that car. Was that Garrett Grist going by?
Yes,
Rob Hodes, rather.
Yeah, I think it was the 71. Totally, that's confirmed on the tracker. Debris on pit entry road now, in front of the pit entry. We are hearing, so that means that the route into pit lane could be somewhat compromised. I wonder whether that's again from one or two of the damaged cars that I've been spotting through the race that has finally fallen off. Let's hope there wasn't any contact on the route into the pit lane between two LMP3 cars.
GS Corsa on pit lane as well.
Yeah.
Car coming in from 5th position. So what are we going to get here? We've still got teams that need to make late pit stops. We've still got 3-4 potential dramas ahead with an orderly queue at race control at the moment. What dramas lie ahead? I think we know what it's all about for the number 7 car, currently 2nd place, 18.3 seconds back. Do need another pit stop, the Nielsen Racing team.
Here comes Scott Andrews then for the final stop for car 22. Over the line will go Ross Gunn and Julian Andlauer, still virtually glued together in the GT3 race leader.
There goes the full course yellow is going to come. Full course yellow is going to come. If you've not taken a pit stop,
do it now during a bit of the full course yellow, during all of the full course yellow, but it is only to recover debris, so we'll be relatively quick.
Everybody dives in.
Yeah. So Scott Andrews was in already, but Colin Noble is in, car 7. Nicholas Varoni in the 66 is already in the pits as well.
Go to full course yellow now, and that's more or less ideal timing. Were we not in a situation where we think Nielsen may have an issue?
Yeah, and 37 as well, about to cross the line. 37, that's an outlap for Josh Skelton. So who else due across the line imminently?
It's a bullet, isn't it, from the rear of an LMP3 by the look of that.
Ah, yeah, so not in the pit, just before the pit lane entry, which is, in fairness, what the message was corrected to, but sitting right in the middle of the track. I can see why a full course yellow was required for that.
Well, let's call it what it could be in those situations, a ramp. It's certainly not something you want to hit at full tilt in a race car on any sort of curve.
Yeah, well, it's cheese wedge shaped to help out the airflow of the back of the car around the wheel arch there, and the legality panel sits a little forward of that, but also crucially the bullet, as it is called, carries the tail lights for the rain light and for the static red light that is on for the duration of the race. So it is absolutely imperative that that remains in position, and if it's damaged at all and dragging loose, it has to be fixed during the race.
They're having a very good look at the rear of the Nielsen car. There's the pit lane marshals. See whether or not the damage there is an issue of safety.
Time ticking by for car 7, but they have done the fuel nozzle connection bit by the looks of things, because that's now been released again.
Away he goes.
So 7 car back into the race.
5.5 minutes to go. Are we going to see any penalties applied in these last 5 minutes, Johnny? Now, full course yellow still out. Is there anything else that needs to be seen? The major piece of debris being collected.
The penalties themselves will be assessed before the end of the race, but they won't be applied until afterwards. And often Al Kamel, who run the timing at these ACO rules events, will implement the penalty right after the checkered flag, in fact. So sometimes we get the timing screen reordering itself, and we need to have a keen eye on that, I reckon, particularly in this race today, 5 minutes away from the end of it.
This is topsy-turvy stuff. Now we've got a pit stop from the car 11. That's the WTM by Phoenix car being investigated. New leader, by the way, is this car. It's Dario Cangelosi. He does owe us a pit stop. Can he get any of that done under full course yellow?
Well, that's a difficult thing.
If he does, it could hand them the race.
It's great strategy from DKR Engineering, keeping this car out for as long as possible. But when the full course yellow is then issued, if it's issued, and we have had one, where's your car on the racetrack?
Yep.
Because if it's at turns 1 and 2, you've then got the best part of 5.5 kilometres to do at 80 kph. It's going to take forever. And well, how long is it taking to get that bullet recovered? Because someone very brave indeed, one of the track workers, is going to have to run out into the middle of the track, and they'll weigh a fair bit. I imagine it's all carbon fibre, so hopefully it can be picked up in one movement.
So this number 3 car, unless this full course yellow is withdrawn right now, is going to profit from this. He has almost 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Whilst, remember, everybody else is going round at full course yellow, and we're going to go back to full course, back to green flag running in about 30 seconds time.
Not going to work for DKR in that case.
It's going to help them slightly.
A little bit, yeah. But that car's going to get to the pit lane now, and there's 15 more seconds of the full course yellow.
But remember, it may be a 2 minute gap, but that's 2 minute gap at full course yellow speeds.
Yes.
Not at full racing speed. And Scott Andrews, who is second place in this race, is coming down to turn 8.
But Scott did the whole of his pit stop.
Green flag.
Did the whole of his pit stop in full course yellow conditions, so I don't think this will work quite as well, anywhere near as well for the number 3 car, as Scott Andrews then gets back up to full race pace, as does Colin Noble, tucked in behind Nicholas Varoni. Those 3 cars may very well be the top 3 by the end of this lap. Looking out for Andrews now heading in towards the Parabolica, with the gap under full course yellow is timed as 7 seconds. It'll be less than that. There's now going to be a drive-through penalty for Julian Andlauer's Porsche for refueling outside of the mandatory pit stops. That's where they went wrong. Refueling outside of the mandatory pit stops. So is there a rule in GT3 which says you have to have done all your driver time then?
If they've served the mandatory pit stop with fueling, and then they've fueled again.
Yes. And you'd have to do that, wouldn't you, because of the time that they took the first penalty.
And that's why the rule is written that way for GT3.
Yes.
Is that you're not going to go and keep fueling the car.
Yes. So when you come in, yes, a driver change has to take place, but you cannot put fuel in during an extra pit stop.
He's going through to complete this lap, so we'll go around again while that penalty is explained to him. In fact, there won't be time.
Not within a minute and 35 seconds left on the clock, so this is a penalty that will be turned into time, and possibly something like 30 seconds for a drive-through penalty. Astoundingly,
we're going to end this race with a GT3 car in 4th, 5th, 6th position.
Yeah. And admittedly, Julian Andlauer's car will get a penalty, which will put it down a little bit, but it probably may well hang on to 3rd place. No, because Power's close enough, I think, to benefit from this. Last time out at Le Castellet, there was a drive-through penalty that wasn't served in the race, and that was converted to a 30-second penalty. So I'm expecting similar, and that will put the Porsche behind Paolo Roberti's Iron Lynx Ferrari and behind Dorian Power's Iron Lynx Ferrari. And the Iron Dames should make the podium, as I read it.
Looks that way.
45 seconds to go. Apologies for having to think aloud during a lot of this, but I mean, this is why we love endurance racing, is the mathematics and the strategy that you also have to include in the commentary of the straight racing that's happening in front of our eyes. But there is an awful lot, you'll appreciate, to stay on top of here. And congratulations to United Autosports, who seem to have pulled off a blinder here. We'll be on course for victory.
We'll call it as we see it across the line at the moment. I think there are going to be some post-race penalties still to come.
True.
But this is the final lap of the race for the lead car, Scott Andrews, the 22 car.
Yeah, 22 leading the 7 of Colin Noble, and the gap is 7 seconds. 12 seconds back to Nicholas Varoni, and Noble and Varoni were side by side for a couple of corners. You will remember the rear right corner of Colin's car still pretty torn up, and has been for quite some time now, but it is not affecting the Scotsman's pace, thankfully. There'll be 3 LMP3 cars in the overall, followed by probably 4 GT3 cars. No, it's not going to quite be 4, because once the penalty is issued to the Porsche, that will put it behind a couple of LMP3s by my reckoning as well.
So the 22 car will have a second win of the season. No points last time out, but it won first time out, so it'll be a double win, which is going to put them right into the title battle. I think there might be a point between, at the moment, the 22 car and the number 7 car as they cross the line.
it's definitely wide open this early on in the season, with of course 2 55-minute races to come next month as part of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But United Autosports take victory provisionally with their 22 car of Scott Andrews and his teammate Jerry Kraut, and there the celebrations can begin at the Anglo-American squad.
Of all the ones that are in doubt, I think that's the one that isn't.
Yeah.
The 22 car, it's got a clean win.
Mandatory pit stop still under investigation.
That's what I'm afraid of, and I think that's been looking. What they're looking at there is the number 7 car, which has crossed the line to finish second on the road. Rinaldi Racing, the number 66 car, Nicholas Veroni crosses the line in 3rd place. Here comes the GT battle.
Massive credit to Ross Gunn here, because he's had to ride a storm from Julian Andlauer for the best part of an hour, actually, and drive so defensively in his number 97 Aston Martin, sharing the drive with Ben Keating. But despite Julian Andlauer's best efforts, he tried every trick in the book, he couldn't get ahead of the TF Sport Aston Martin, and it'll be Ben Keating and Ross Gunn who take victory here at Monza from Julian Andlauer and Nicky Leutwiler, at least for the time being. But we do think there's a penalty to be issued to Porsche number 2.
100% there's a penalty coming to the Porsche. They didn't serve a drive-through. There will be a time penalty applied later. It's a matter of where that leaves the cars behind. But I think that will mean that the Porsche finishes 4th in the order here, 3rd in the points, because the Aston Martin effectively invisible for the points here. Should also call, by the way, who is 4th in the running in LMP3. That's one of the other championship leading cars. Wayne Boyd bringing the 23 car home, 4th position in LMP3, but 7th overall behind the leading 3 GT cars.
Yeah,
that could be significant in the what we see on the podium, what we see in the points as they get that one sorted out.
Yeah, and obviously with another race under our belts, that should provide lots more variety as far as points divvied out are concerned. And although it's been fun to have 6 drivers and 3 teams all on the same points, very difficult to read. And now we've got 3 rounds done and dusted. That should open things up a little bit more. Maybe there'll be a pattern to spot, but there are half points eligible. It's not quite half points. I think it's 15 points for a race win next month for each of the individual hour-long races at Circuit de la Sarthe.
I'm also going to tell you who's 5th in the order, and I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. So the 5th in the order in LMP3 is the DK Engineering car, with Dario Cangigliosi bringing the car home, and that's because we're also hearing the 66 car's pit stop is under investigation.
Right.
And that's the car that finished 3rd on the road.
That's the Rinaldi Racing car of Nicola Varoni, and it was started by Alexander Matschel. Are you keeping notes, folks? I hope that we are as well, and all of this will be mopped up either in the steward's room or by the timing screen. I think any corrective measures made by Alcamel would have already been done by now, though. That's normally a very quick process.
They did say that the one that I do expect to be sorted, and has been, is the Porsche. So the Porsche will finish 10th overall, 4th in class. So it's TF Sports, the 97 car, with Ross Gunn and Ben Keating finishing ahead of the number 8 Iron Lynx Ferrari, Paolo Roberti and Gabriele Antieri, and then 3rd and completing the podium will be the number 9 Iron Lynx Ferrari, with Dorian Pan bringing the car home. Sarah Bovey with a fantastic start to the race from Sarah. That was a great run from her. What's not yet clear, because we know they're still investigating those pit stops, is what happens in LMP3.
Yes, and you get the feeling that's going to be a slightly more long-winded process that could linger long into the night. I mean, we're already at 7:30 in the evening. Racing again tomorrow at 11 o'clock local time, with build-up starting at 10:40, by the way, for the 4th round of 6 of the European Le Mans Series for 2021. It'll be Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer back for that as well, in glorious sunshine, if you believe the forecast. Headlights on and now off for Ross Gunn. Now we've had the adjustment, even more of an adjustment from Alcamel. So what does that tell us? Ross Gunn, Paolo Roberti, Dorian Parr confirmed about the Porsche. That had already happened, given a 30-second post-race penalty. And I can't see anything else that's obvious, to be honest. There's other not qualified cars, but they have been long out of it.
The issues for those pit stops are going to be sorted post-race, and whether or not we see that sorted in time for the podiums to be conclusive, we'll wait to see. It has happened before that they're not. I'll call it as we see it. At the moment, it is United Autosports, Nielsen Racing and Rinaldi Racing. Great Racing, whether or not they got the strategy right, will be sorted out in the stewards' room and in race control.
Could this be the start of a very successful week for the first time here at Monza for Ben Keating? Never been to the track before, and you can understand the reasons why he wanted to do the extra support race, therefore, in support of Ross Gunn, or actually Ross Gunn in support of Ben Keating. They are victorious. Let's get reaction, though, from our overall race winners.
I'm joined here by the winners of the LMP3 category here in Monza, car number 22, United Autosports. So, Scott, I mean, it was really fantastic. You really pulled off a blinder there. You managed to keep out trouble, showed great pace. And, it's, you know, for your second win of the season, just take us through it, how it went for you.
Yeah, well, you know, first of all, big thanks to this guy. Jerry gave me the car in a great position. You know, and United Autosports just had a great strategy, and we had really good long tyre pace, so that's really what helped us. Is in the middle of the stint we're able to keep the pace up, keep doing the lap times, and you know, the car was great, the team was flawless, Jerry did an awesome job, and yeah, you know, that's the recipe for a race win, and we were lucky enough that the cards fell into our place this time. So yeah, big thanks to everybody involved.
It all fell into place. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Congratulations.
Scott Andrews and Jerry Kraut are victorious, with the number one held up to the many cameras that are collected down in pit lane. And easy to lose sight of the 22 car, really, because it was just going about his business outside of the limelight, and creeps up and gets there.
Keep it simple on the strategy front. Seems to have been the way that was going to go. We're going to go down to Haley, who's got the winners in GT, Ben Keating and Ross Gunn, winner from TF Sport.
I'm joined here by the winners of the GT category, TF Sport. So firstly, Ross, we spoke to Ben earlier. I mean, you really managed to pull it off. What a fantastic performance. You know, just tell us about it and how you really kind of managed to pull your way up the field and hold on to that top spot.
Yeah, it was obviously an amazing race for us. This weekend was really about making sure Ben is in a really happy place before he attacks next weekend. He's been really good this year in WEC, so it's obviously important that he carries that on. Passed the car over in a great position. We were able to have a really good stop. The TF guys did an amazing stop within the time limit that we have in Le Mans Cup. And yeah, for me personally, it's just great to be back in this championship. I did it a few years ago. I was expecting to have a slightly easier stint than that. Andelao was super fast, really kept me on my toes, but thankfully I didn't make a mistake, kept it together, and got TF yet another win in an Aston Martin. So very pleased, and looking forward to racing tomorrow now in ELMS.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Got a little practice for you too.
Yes, a little bit of practice for you too, says Ben to Ross Gunn. Yeah, maybe he expected more of a fun afternoon, Ross. Well, welcome to the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Things have changed a bit since you were last in this particular series.
Just a touch.
And yeah, it's now attracting really great drivers, both from the bronze category and from pro drivers as well. No platinums permitted, remember, but the golds and the silvers are mightily impressive. 56 laps completed for Scott Andrews and Jerry Kraut to take a first win of the year, but a second podium. They finished second behind Mikey Benham and Tommy Foster in the opening round at Barcelona. Nielsen Racing second for the time being, although there is a pit stop under investigation there. Rinaldi Racing finishing third, ahead of the best GT3 car, fourth overall for Ross and for Ben. Paolo Roberti in the number 8 Iron Lynx car, sharing with Gabriele Lancieri from pole position. That car finished second, and in third place in GT3, the Iron Dames Dorian Pin, together with teammate Sarah Bovey. A little further down the order, Wayne Boyd in United Autosports number 23, finishing just behind, therefore in 6th place overall, with John Schaumann. And a lot of cars not classified because of, well, that's the tail of the tape really. So much incident. A little later than planned, we got the latest round of the Michelin Le Mans Cup underway under glorious skies here at Monza, and a massive field of 32 cars thundered their way down to the first chicane. Turns 1 and 2, often an area where it can go rather wrong for such a tightly bunched field, but they were very well behaved indeed. We had to wait a little bit later for the carnage to truly begin. A good getaway from Sarah Bovey in the Iron Lynx Iron Dames car that she shares with Dorian Parr, and scampering away into the race lead, having pulled off a good manoeuvre on Gabriele Lancieri. Then this spin for Patrice Lafargue. This was the kind of lighter moment that caused the much bigger freeway accident further back. A huge shunt for Nicholas Cruton in the Team Virage car. Mark Crader's grain market racing car as well, but Matthias Cruton taken away to the medical centre, and great to see Mark Crader able to make the rescue unit under his own steam as well. And they will have been checked over, no doubt, by the on-site doctors in the medical centre here at Monza. There was that coming together at turn 1, also Klaas Abelan with a spin at the second of the Lesmos. Safety car coming out for the second time in the day. We actually had 3 of them in total, and a couple of full course yellows for good measure. Meantime, the battling continued. Mikey Benham went for this move at the Parabolica, which didn't quite come off, lost control of the car and skated into the gravel trap. That would be the reason for our first full course yellow. Benham, though, was returned to the racetrack courtesy of one of the snatch vehicles. And then Garrett Grist found his way to the sharp end. There was a detached wheel for Dino Donardi's Mulner Motorsport Duqueine. GT3 has been fantastic all day, and as the fully pro drivers took over, we were left with a battle between Ross Gunn and Julian Andlauer. However, difficulties for the Phoenix Racing entry, car number 5, and also that stray bullet, which would bring out our final second full course yellow, sitting right in the middle of the track towards the end of the 5.7 kilometre circuit. So that would need to be collected by one of the marshals as well. DKR Engineering coming in from the race lead, and Dario Cangigliosi. And then Julian Andlauer, who was pursuing Ross Gunn for basically the whole of his stint. Andlauer continuing after a safety car down in 4th, but he made relatively short work of the 2 GT3 cars ahead of him, but then couldn't get past the final one, the crucial one, which prevented the number 2 car from taking a race victory. In the end, Porsche number 2 was given a post-race penalty as well.
Well,
yes.
That was instant field again, wasn't it? As start to get towards, well, the sun going down towards the Alps. And we're going to see who turns up on the podium, which will be an event for us in the first instance.
Well, it depends whether any decisions are made before the podium presentation. If they're going to take a while, if there is discussion to be had and appeals as well, that is always a long-winded process. And it looks like we're going to stick as we are.
We are for the moment.
Yes, for the LMP3 podium. So to the third step for 66, it's Alexander Matschel and Nicola Varoni for the German squad Rinaldi Racing. Second place to car 7, the Nielsen Racing crew of the UK for Tony Wells and Colin Noble. And the middle and highest step on the podium goes the way of Jerry Kraut, who started the car, and Scott Andrews, who brought it to the finish. 7.8 seconds the winning margin in the end for the United Autosports crew, and we will hear the national anthem of the winning team. The United Kingdom national anthem there for United Autosports. It's different from the national anthem we hear when they take victory in the World Endurance Championship, because they are an American flag crew. They
operate under that licence for that, and that's all tied in with a lot of things, but one of which is the number of entries you're allowed at the 24 hours on the morning.
Of course. Champagne flies. We missed this process for all of last year and for a bit of this as well, but isn't it great to have 6 drivers on the top step of the podium, together with a representative from car 22 as well. And a very dry podium from the amount of sunshine that we've had today gets incredibly soaked with 7 bottles of champagne let loose. Michelin Le Mans Cup, of course, with Bibendum present as well on the podium. And Tony Wells and Colin Noble are the new championship leaders provisionally by a point, but of course there is the 7 car very much under investigation. Graham might have news on that in a second, so take these points with a pinch of salt. 45 points going the way of John Shamman and Wayne Boyd after their 4th place finish within class, so you get 12 points for that in this race in isolation. 33.5 points now for Matt Bell and Maurice Smith, so they were 2 of the drivers of the 6 that came to this event on 33 points, and they've only got half a point because of Matt Bell finishing outside of the top 10. But you do get half a point for that. And just scrolling through the rest of the LMP3 runners, Eric De Donker, who wasn't here this weekend. Dino Lenardi was, though, and scoring points for another team. So Nielsen, 51 points from the 22 crew of United Autosports. Today's winners, backed up by the 2nd place finish they got at Barcelona. So that's a decent points haul, 50 points.
And this, all of a sudden, you know, in the face of some challenges that the United Autosports team have had in the European Le Mans Series, looking like a good year in the Le Mans Cup, which is not something they've had before. I think I'm right that we've had just two race wins in Le Mans Cup history for United Autosports, both this year.
Oh, really? Yeah. It seems bizarre to say that, but I think that's right. Nicky Leutvila, who's had different co-drivers through the course of the year, is now on 55 points, and that does take into account the penalty. There shouldn't be anything more to come for PZ O'Bera, so that he will leave the Monza round as the championship leader and head to 2 sprint races, in inverted commas, 2 55-minute races at the Circuit de la Sarthe event. Of course, the 8 car, as far as the teams are concerned, is carrying more points, and that is again a quirk of which drivers have been at the wheel of the 71 to date. Different drivers means that actually the car has won more points than any of its individual drivers. I'm not sure we've ever had that before. Now the podium for GT3s, and 3rd step going the way of Donian Pan and Sarah Bovey. Let's hear the national anthem for the winners, though, first of all. Again, the national anthem of Great Britain, because TF Sport are very much based in the UK. From the UK, Tom Ferrier's outfit, although a Texan, 50% of that lineup this weekend in the form of Ben Keating.
There was an oddity in that point scoring thing there. As you saw behind the Nicky at the top of the points in GT, equal on points, Rino Mastronardi and Paolo Roberti share the same car, but have not shared the same car in every race. Paolo didn't do race 2, and Rino didn't do this race, but they still remain on exactly the same points. That's pretty extraordinary.
Yes, I know. I think I'll need to revisit that.
I'll have to think about that one.
Well after this 2-hour race, which has already fried the brain. We love our motorsport, we love door-to-door racing, but I also kind of like all of the mathematics and all of the various ways that you can slice these races as well. Although there's definitely been a change year on year to try and remove some of those loopholes, as proved by the regulation that now says you must do a driver change in the longer fuel stop, which was a new one on me, but thank you to Graham for pointing that out, and you might want to point it out to one or two of the teams as well.
I have a horrible feeling I'm going to have to, but I think they may have had that already, but it does continue to catch out these teams, doesn't it? I have to say, with my kind of marginally critical hat on, is it a little too complicated
from a user-friendly point of view? I think there is a bit of a question to be asked there, definitely, but it makes it really interesting as a spectacle and from a neutral point of view. Well, that has really set things up nicely for tomorrow's action here at Monza, because the third round of the fourth round of the European Le Mans Series set to take place here in the northern part of Italy, in Lombardy, with the 4 hours of Monza, the European Le Mans Series, starting at 11, but we will be on air at 10:40 Central European summertime for all of the build-up, a little bit of warm-up, and then, of course, into the grid formation itself and the formation laps before we get racing at 11 o'clock. Cannot wait. We hope you've booked your morning / afternoon / evening, wherever you are around the world, to enjoy it with us. From Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer, have a good Saturday night. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.